Chapter 565. Lu Yun, get the steward to send this issue of the newspaper to every county in Tang Dynasty as fast as possible. It has to be twice as fast as the previous one. Use fast horses. Azure Dragon Lane, the temporary residence of the Wang family in the capital. Wang Renbiao had obviously just finished reading today's newspaper. He called his follower Lu Yun over and instructed seriously. Lu Yun didn't understand and said in shock, "Double the speed? Young master, wouldn't we have to pay a higher price this way? We'll lose money." In the past, when the Datong Daily came out, the people in and around Chang'an City could see the news immediately due to their superior geographical location. However, the people in the counties far away from Chang'an had a hard time. Depending on the distance, the time they received the latest issue of the newspaper would be delayed by 3 days to a month. This was because the Wang family's caravan was in charge of transporting the Datong Daily to other places. Now that Wang Renbiao had made this request, they definitely couldn't use the caravan's route. They had to use fast horses to travel 800 miles. The cost of that wasn't just high. Bastard! Just do whatever young master asks you to do. Lu Yun, have you forgotten the lesson from last time? Wang Renbiao was about to answer when Ling Yuyao's bone-chilling voice came from behind Lu Yun. Lu Yun was so scared that he shivered. He quickly slapped his mouth and begged for mercy. "Young master, please forgive me, Miss Yuyao. This lowly one has spoken too much. This lowly one deserves to die." Wang Renbiao waved his hand helplessly and said, all right. Get someone to buy a batch of mathematics teaching materials from shopkeeper's son and get the steward to send them to every place in Tang Dynasty. Lu Yun cupped his hands and said, "Yes, young master." After that, he didn't dare to stay any longer and quickly left. Ling Yuyao looked at Lu Yun's back and snorted, "Ignorant." Then, she walked to Wang Renbiao's side and asked worriedly, "Young master, why do you have to speed up the delivery of this issue of the newspaper to every county?" This girl had just said that Lu Yun was immature and liked to ask questions that shouldn't be asked, and now she was asking questions herself. Seriously, the corner of Wang Renbiao's mouth twitched. He looked at Ling Yuyao with a strange expression for a while before saying, "Little Xian's Yanwang College is going to start recruiting students and teachers. The relevant announcement will be published in this issue of Datong Daily. Yanwang College will officially start school next month. Time is tight, so I have to help him." Ling Yuyao suddenly understood. She thought for a while and said, "I've seen the Yanwang College in Yunshan from afar. The architectural style there is completely different, and they actually used a building material that I've never seen before. The surface is extremely hard and smooth like stone. It's really strange. Moreover, the scale of that academy was comparable to that of the Imperial College. Thanks to Li Zishuan, the Li family has accumulated so much wealth in just half a year. How admirable!" Wang Renbiao laughed and said, "Haha. Little Xian's ability was unquestionable. Otherwise, my father and I wouldn't have thought so highly of him. But Yuyao, you only saw the surface and didn't see the deeper layer of things." Ling Yuyao asked curiously, "What is it?" Wang Renbiao pointed at the article, "What is engineering?" on the newspaper and said with a deep look in his eyes, "Little Xian's ambition is all in here. Engineering. He wants to use his own strength to fight against the 800 years of dominance of Confucianism. Whether he succeeds or not, he will become the founder of a new school of thought. His name will be known throughout the world, and his name will be immortalized for eternity. If he succeeds, the countless disciples under his school of engineering will become an invisible force. By then, his Li family will be an unshakable existence in Tang Dynasty except for the royal family." Ling Yuyao's mouth was wide open in shock. No matter what, she would never have thought that Li Zishuan not only left his peers 800 miles behind in the path of martial arts, but also established his own school and stood proudly in the path of literature. Such a character already made her unable to have any jealousy, and all that was left was admiration and worship. Wang Renbiao didn't stop after he finished speaking. Instead, he sighed and continued, "Now, except for the royal family, the other 6 aristocratic families are all divided at heart. And because of my father, the other aristocratic families are showing signs of isolating the Wang family." Did they really think that I didn't know about the gathering of the 5 aristocratic families a few days ago? Naive. Our Wang family just doesn't want to be associated with them. The royal family is too powerful now, and the aristocratic families can only struggle at death's door. If they still can't see the reality, then they won't even have the right to struggle at death's door. And now, our Wang family has a good relationship with Li Zixuan, a promising new star of the empire. Even if the royal family declines one day, the other aristocratic families can't compare to our Wang family's status. So, this time, we have to do Li Zixuan a favor. Helping him is also helping ourselves. Even if my father is here, he will also make the same decision. Ling Yuyao sighed and said, "Gongzi is wise. If you don't have great ambitions, you can use engineering to become an accountant in a shop, or take part in the mathematics examination, and become a deputy of a county or a manager of the Ministry of Civil Affairs or the Ministry of Works. That way your whole family will have enough food and clothing. If you have great ambitions and are willing to devote yourself to engineering, you can become a master of the generation. You can do things that others don't dare to do. You can create treasures that others can't create. You can enjoy great wealth, be worshipped by thousands, and leave your name in history for eternity." Chongren Lane, in a house with 3 courtyards. A young boy with acne was holding a newspaper and reading today's Tang Daily's news. He was in a daze. After a while, he suddenly jumped up and ran to the backyard, shouting excitedly as he ran, "Dad! Mom! I don't want to stay in the Imperial College. I want to follow Mr. Li to Yanwang College to study engineering." This young boy was a student from the mathematics school. His name was Jiang Qingyu. It could be seen that he was also a poor child who was forced by his parents to stay in the Imperial College. Because not long after, angry scoldings sounded from the backyard. "Bastard! What's so good about Yanwang College? What kind of future can you have there? If you dare to be disobedient again, I will break your legs and make sure you can't go anywhere." Who said that going to Yanwang College is useless? After you study there, not only can you become a deputy of a county or a manager of the Ministry of Works or the Ministry of Civil Affairs, but you can also become a master of the generation like Mr. Li. Bullshit. Men from Li County are capable, but that doesn't mean that Yanwang College has a future. You better stay in the Imperial College obediently. No. Dad, look for yourself. Look at what engineering is. Look at what Yanwang College is. Even if you break my legs, I will go to Yanwang College. Otherwise, I will regret it for the rest of my life. Chapter 566. Hua Hongyi, Jiang Qingyu, and the others' reactions to today's Tang Daily were just a microcosm of Yanwang College's or Li Zixuan's supporters. Of course, not everyone in Chang'an City was a brainless fan of Li Zixuan. There were also many people who did not like Li Zixuan. This Li Zixuan is really arrogant. Confucianism is in power, and he dares to promote engineering? He really doesn't know what's good for him. In Xingyefang, Cui Shanyu could not help but sneer as he read the news in the newspaper at home. He held the newspaper and paced back and forth in the house, looking like he was thinking of an idea. After a while, he seemed to have decided on something and said to himself, "Since you're looking for death and still boasting so much, then don't blame me for being ruthless." However, in less than 2 breaths of time after he said this, his expression began to become hesitant again. No. The Cui family just sent a message a few days ago to give up all actions against Li Zixuan. If I force myself at this time, won't I offend both sides? Cui Shanyu shook his head and finally sighed. Sigh. Forget it. It's just that I missed such a good opportunity. Cui Shanyu was scared at the last minute because of the Cui family, but the other disciples of Confucianism would not be scared. The 3 pieces of news in today's newspaper made many Confucian defenders explode. Arrogant. Arrogant to the extreme. Does Li Zixuan think that he can be a deputy county magistrate, the head of the Ministry of Works, or the Ministry of Civil Affairs with just his engineering skills? Does he think that the mathematics exam is so easy for the disciples of engineering? In a restaurant somewhere, a young man in a Confucian robe slammed the table angrily and shouted. Another diner next to him could not help but say, ahem. This brother. Let's not talk about other things for now. Just based on Li Zixuan's attainments in mathematics, what the newspaper said is not exaggerated at all. His disciple will definitely get first place in the next year's mathematics exam. The young man in a scholarly robe who scolded earlier also knew that what the person next to him said was reasonable. He couldn't help blushing and said awkwardly, Then even if he's powerful, he actually said that engineering can create faster and more stable vehicles. When the time comes, he can travel between Chang'an and Luoyang in a day. He also said that engineering can create flying tools that allow mortals to soar above the 9 heavens. Tell me, how is this possible? Was he, Li Zixuan, bragging? He is deviating from the orthodoxy and spreading miscellaneous knowledge. As soon as he said this, the person next to him couldn't refute anymore. The other scholars, however, started to jeer. That's right. The man from Li County is using Tang daily to promote his so-called engineering. He's simply deviating from the norm, despicable and shameless. Yes, this newspaper is full of nonsense. Chang'an is 1,000 li away from Luoyang. If he could set off in the morning and arrive at Luoyang in the evening, wouldn't he have to travel 1,000 li in a day? What kind of tool can do that? Also, what can allow mortals to fly above the 9 heavens? This is simply nonsense. Li Zixuan is really unscrupulous in order to promote his engineering. Yes. This is simply an insult to the disciples of the saints. Let's go to Yongla Lane together to criticize him. Let's make him repent. Yes. Let's go together. After a while, a group of scholars in the restaurant's main hall were incited together, wanting to gather at the entrance of the Li family's house to cause trouble. A bunch of ungrateful, heartless, and unscrupulous things. How could you forget about Li County's opening of the Strange Culture flat book price? Didn't you enjoy the favor? Now you're biting the hand that feeds you. Our restaurant doesn't welcome you. Get lost. At this time, a plump middle-aged man walked out and said coldly with a look of disdain, The shopkeeper is right. You bunch of people have really thrown your books to the dogs. Ungrateful, get lost. Get lost. Get lost. Li Zixuan's reputation among the people was already very good. Among so many people, there were naturally some hardcore fans of Li Zixuan. After hearing the comments of this group of scholars, the restaurant's shopkeeper and some of the diners in the main hall immediately began to denounce them. What a disgrace to the educated! You can't differentiate between right and wrong, you can't tell good from bad. The young man in a scholarly robe who had started the conversation said loudly with a red face, Get lost. This restaurant doesn't welcome you. Get lost. Get lost. Yunhan. This bunch of people is too much. They are simply too stupid. They can't tell good from bad. Yes. This bunch of unruly people can only be fooled by Li Zixuan. They can't tell right from wrong. After being chased out of the restaurant, the group of scholars surrounded the young man in a scholarly robe and complained. It turned out that this young man was called Cui Yunhan. He was also from the Zhengzhou Cui clan of Qinghe. However, he was from the second branch. His grandfather was Cui Junchuo's younger brother. Cui Junchuo, as the current head of the Cui clan of Qinghe, had placed the hope of the third generation on Cui Xuanji. This made Cui Yunhan very unhappy. A few days ago, Cui Xuanji was sent back to his hometown in Zhengzhou for some unknown reason. This made Cui Yunhan extremely happy and felt that his opportunity had come. Cui Junchuo's unfriendly attitude towards Li Zixuan was more or less known to Cui Yunhan. Therefore, after seeing the newspaper today, he couldn't help but want to do something to attract Cui Junchuo's attention. And let's not lower ourselves to the level of these unruly people. Let's go and block Li Zixuan's house. Originally, he wanted to instigate some people to do something with him. However, he didn't expect to get off on the wrong foot and even be chased out of the restaurant. Cui Yunhan, who had always been spoiled since childhood, had never been humiliated like this before. Of course, he was angry. However, after thinking about it, he felt that business was more important. Therefore, he clenched his teeth and said to his companions, But with just the few of us, isn't it too little?" A scholar at the side hesitated. In the end, scholars like them, sometimes they would talk fiercely. However, when it came to doing it, they would probably be terrified. After all, Li Zixuan was a man who founded the country. Furthermore, he was also a popular figure in the imperial court. He was the Crown Prince Zhan Shi of the third rank. It was no wonder that this person would be terrified. Seeing that the others nodded in agreement, Cui Yunhan muttered, "Then let's go and gather our classmates." Li Zixuan wantonly spread miscellaneous studies and deceived the people. How can we, the disciples of the saints, sit back and do nothing? We must let the people see his true colors. That's right. I will go and find Dong Kong and the rest. All right. Then I will go and find Xiao Lei and the rest. I will go and find Zhuojin and the rest. Cui Yunhan nodded and said, "All right. Then you guys hurry up. After an hour, we will gather here and go to the Li family together." All right. Chapter 567. Mr. Wenji Li Gang, courtesy name Wenji, long time no see. I trust you have been well since we last met. In Crooked River Square, Li Zixuan knocked on the door and entered a quiet and elegant courtyard. When he saw Li Gang watering the orchids with a water ladle, he greeted him with a smile. This was a relatively simple old house. The decorations were not luxurious at all. There were no artificial mountains, ponds, or pavilions. There was only a small bamboo forest in the courtyard, plus a flower garden. It was quiet and elegant to the extreme. Hee. This old man's bones are good. But how come you, a busy person, have the time to look for an old man like me? Li Gang unhurriedly put the water ladle into the wooden bucket next to him, turned around and said with a smile. Li Zixuan did not directly answer Li Gang's question. Instead, he glanced at the Datong Daily that was quietly lying on the stool and asked Li Gang, "Mr. also reads Datong Daily?" "I do. This old man is idle at home. Other than watering the flowers, I can only read the newspaper. This newspaper of yours is really a good choice to pass the time." Li Gang suddenly came to a realization. He pointed at Li Zixuan and said with a deep smile, "Ha ha. This old man knows why you are here today. You want this old man to pay the wine debt. Ha ha. Let's talk inside." Inside the house, Li Gang asked his grandson Li Gang to pour a cup of tea for Li Zixuan. Then, the two of them sat opposite each other. Li Gang smiled and said, "This old man's house is not as rich as yours. I don't have good wine, but I still have good tea. Don't dislike it." Li Zixuan cupped his hands and said, "I wouldn't dare. Mister, you don't care about fame and fortune. Although you live in a humble house, many of us can't compare to your moral character. How would I dare to dislike it?" Even Li Gang, a calm old pedant, couldn't help but laugh at his flattery. He laughed and scolded, "Glib tongue? I'm afraid I won't be able to bear your flattery. This tea was personally picked by this old man in March at the tea garden in the east of the city. It tastes very good. You should try it too." The corner of Li Zixuan's mouth twitched slightly. Thank you for your kindness, sir. Although the tea is good, I'm not used to this kind of tea brewing technique. I appreciate your kindness. Li Gang frowned and asked curiously, tea brewing techniques? Could it be that other than this old man's tea cooking technique, there are other tea cooking techniques? Li Zixuan coughed dryly and said, let's not talk about this for now. If old Mister is interested, I will use a new method to brew a pot of tea for you in the future. I came here today because I have something to ask of you. Haha. You want to invite me to your Yanhuang College, right? It was easy to talk to smart people. Li Zixuan didn't even need to take the initiative to say it. Li Gang had already guessed the purpose of Li Zixuan's visit. He shook his head and couldn't help but laugh. This old man has already read today's Tang daily. What you want to say should be in the newspaper, right? There is no high or low in learning. Engineering is only for the benefit of the world. Xiao Xian, although this old man agrees with this sentence, I'm afraid you will be criticized a lot if you write it like this. Li Zixuan said, I don't care about public opinion and criticism. If I can let engineering be known by the world, be used by the world, and benefit the world, then what do I have to fear even if I'm criticized? Li Gang slapped the table and laughed loudly. Ha ha. Good. You are really a newborn calf that isn't afraid of tigers. This old man is very pleased that my Tang Empire has such a young talent like you. If your Yanhuang College has any use for this old man will not refuse. Li Zixuan said happily, Old Mister, you agree? Li Gang smiled and said, Yes. But your Yanhuang College mainly teaches engineering, right? Although this old man is familiar with the classics and history, I know very little about engineering and construction. I'm afraid I can't help you much. Li Zixuan had already considered this point. He smiled and said, Although Yanhuang Academy mainly imparts engineering, Confucianism also plays a large part. I believe that Confucianism cultivates the heart, while engineering benefits the world. Without the influence of Confucianism, even if the students are capable, they will not be of any benefit to the country if their three views are not correct. Besides, you are a person of virtue and prestige. Even if you don't do anything and just stand in our Yanhuang College, you will be able to smell the scholarly fragrance of Yanhuang College within 100 miles. Who says you can't help? Although this was a little exaggerated, Li Gang's role was really like a stabilizing needle. His prestige in the scholarly world and his reputation among the people were among the top of the famous scholars in Tang Empire. With Li Gang joining Yanhuang College, the overall level of the school would rise by a level. Li Gang stroked his beard, pointed at Li Zixuan and scolded with a smile, You brat, I don't know where you learned this skill of flattery. Fine, fine. This old man will go to your Yanhuang College to teach. You have to provide as much good wine and food as you want. You brat can give the other teachers such a high salary, so you can definitely give me a few jars of wine. How could Li Zixuan not agree? He hurriedly said, Old Mister, don't worry, this is how it should be. This is how it should be. Li Gang nodded with extreme satisfaction. Then he thought for a while and said, coincidentally, this old man has a few close friends. They are quite knowledgeable, but they have already retired. Previously, you said in the newspaper, since they have retired from the world, why don't they come to Yanhuang College to teach a few disciples and watch them maneuver unhindered and leave a mark for generations to come? This old man agrees very much. This old man will invite them to come to Chang on some other day. You brat, come and meet them. If you think they are okay, you can also invite them to Yanhuang College. Li Zixuan waved his hand and said with a smile, Since old Mister thinks that they are knowledgeable, what other opinions do I have? If you think it's okay, as long as they are willing to come to Yanhuang College, this brat would be more than happy. I just don't know if there are any of your friends who are good at engineering machinery and machinery? Li Gang was startled. After a while, He nodded with a heavy expression and said, This old man does know someone who is very proficient in engineering, machinery. However, we haven't contacted each other for many years. This old man will write a letter in a while, and see if we can still contact each other? If there is a chance, I can recommend you. Li Zishuan's eyes lit up and he said excitedly, Thank you for your trouble. He had been in Tang for so long, but the number of engineering talents he knew could be counted on one hand. Yanwang College would be the #1 engineering college in Tang in the future. How could it not have a reserve of top talents? So today, Li Gang really solved his urgent problem. Li Gang hesitated and said, But this person's identity is a bit special. Do you really want to meet? Chapter 568. Li Zishuan. Come out. Li Zishuan, you're promoting engineering and deceiving the people. You're a disgrace to the saints. Come out and give us an explanation. That's right. Li Zishuan, come out and give us an explanation. Yongla Lane, Li Residence Gate. After Jiang Tsuehua led dozens of women to surround the Li residence, the gate of the Li residence was once again blocked after half a month. The people who were blocking the gate were a group of scholars led by Cui Yunhan. There were a total of 40 to 50 people. The status of the scholars was much higher than that of the women last time. Therefore, the commotion this time was even bigger. There were also more people watching the show. Many of the onlookers who had a good impression of the Li family could not help but worry for the Li family. This was because the scholars' mouths could turn black into white. If the Li family did not handle this matter properly, then the scholars would spread the news and the Li family's reputation would be ruined. Who are you? How dare you come to the Li residence to cause trouble? With such a big matter happening, there would naturally be servants to report to the inner court. Before the person in charge came, Pang Feiji had to stand up for a while. He pulled out the long knife at his waist and shouted coldly at the group of people in front of him. Some of the timid scholars were frightened by Pang Feiji's cold-faced Hades. However, Cui Yunhan had seen the world. He knew that Pang Feiji would not dare to make a move. Therefore, he pretended to be righteous. He took 2 steps forward and said loudly, Riches and honor cannot be corrupted. Poverty cannot be moved. Might cannot be subdued. Today, we are here to demand an explanation from Li Zishuan. Why would we be afraid of a small guard like you? If you have the guts, then chop your knife down on my head. These righteous words immediately boosted the morale of the group of scholars. Many scholars loudly cheered, That's right, we can't submit to force. We are here to seek an explanation. Why would we be afraid of a little guard like you? Hurry up and ask Li Zishuan, the cultured scum, to come out. That's right. Either get Li Zishuan to come out, or bring your knife down on our heads. Let's see if you still dare to commit murder in broad daylight. Facing this group of aggressive scholars, Brother Chicken couldn't help but frown. He didn't expect that not only did his threats fail to frighten the other party, it instead made them even more arrogant. He glared fiercely at Cui Yunhan, the scholar who was leading the troublemakers, and said loudly, My Lord Ju is not at home now. All of you are causing trouble in broad daylight. If you do not leave quickly, I can only let the people from Wu Ho government come and capture all of you. Cui Yunhan did not back down and retorted, Gathering people to cause trouble? Which eye of yours saw us gathering to cause trouble? We are only here to reason with Li Zishuan. This is a matter between us scholars. You have no right to interrupt. Get out of the way. Tell Li Zishuan to come out. I don't believe that he's not at home. That's right. This is a matter between us scholars. Why are you interrupting? That's right. Tell Li Zishuan to come out. What's the point of hiding at home like a coward? The more they caused, the fiercer they became. The more they spoke, the more they wanted a mile. They all pressed forward, wanting to crash into the Li family's main door. Brother Chicken was both angry and shocked. He shouted loudly, All of you stop! Stop them! Whoever dares to go forward, chase them away with sticks. The Li family's guards at the side all agreed. Whenever they saw a scholar who dared to cross the line, they would mercilessly hit them with sticks. They didn't dare to hit their vital parts. They only hit their buttocks and thighs. In a moment they were crying out in pain. Li family. Li Jingma, Madame Li and Han Yushi were shocked when they received the news. Madame Li asked, "Where's Xian'er?" With such a big matter happening, only Li Zixuan, this cultured person, could handle it well in the entire Li family. Cui Yunhan was right about one thing. Today's matter was between scholars. It was useless for others to step forward. Only Li Zixuan could do it personally. Besides, they couldn't let Han Yushi, this woman, go out to solve the conflict. Putting aside her identity as a scholar, the people outside were all men. It was very inappropriate for a woman like her to step forward. Han Yushi quickly replied, "Mother?" Her husband had gone out a long time ago. He should be at Crooked River Square, old Mr. Li Gang's house now. I'll ask San Bao to call him back. Madame Li nodded and said, "Go quickly. Ask Xian'er to come back quickly. Let Pang Sigi help out outside for a while." Han Yushi nodded and called San Bao over. She gave a few instructions, and San Bao sneaked out from the back door. Li Jingma shouted from behind, "San Bao, ride my horse! Hurry up! Io! You bunch of unruly slaves, how dare you commit violence in public? Just wait to go to jail. Everyone, they don't dare to really hit us. Let's rush in and find Li Zixuan. Yes. Rush in and find Li Zixuan, this refined scum, coward." Those scholars who suffered physical pain in front of the Li family's residence were incomparably furious. They couldn't help but curse. Cui Yunhan, on the other hand, was calmer. He kept fanning the flames from the back. When the scholars heard that, they felt that it was reasonable. They started to press forward with the sticks of the Li family's guards. When Brother Ji saw this, he was so anxious that he was sweating profusely. If these people barged in and offended the women in the residence, then he would really die 1,000 deaths. But if these scholars in front of him were to really hit them, he definitely couldn't hit them. If he really hit them, he might even cause trouble for Li Zixuan. He really didn't dare to act on his own accord. So at this moment, Brother Ji really didn't know what to do. "Humph. Are you the ones who want to see me?" At this moment, many of the scholars who were causing trouble felt a bump on their shoulders. Then, they felt a gust of wind brushing past their ears. Then, they saw a man who was dressed like jade and had a dignified appearance. He stared at them and snorted coldly. "Li Zixuan?" Cui Yunhan's eyes flickered slightly. Then, he pretended to be calm and said, "Li Zixuan, you finally dare to come out? That's right, the person who came was Li Zixuan. San Bao had just left Yongla Lane when she met him. After he left Li Gang's house 15 minutes ago, of course, in the end, Li Gang didn't tell him what was special about that person's identity. He originally planned to go directly to Yang Lane to look for Su Hongji. After all, Su Hongji had taught with him for so long and had a very deep understanding of the new mathematic. So, Li Zixuan wanted to invite Su Hongji to Yanwang College to teach. But when he passed by Yongla Lane on the way, he could hear the commotion from outside. Just as he was about to investigate, San Bao rode out on a horse. Li Zixuan asked and found out that his house was being blocked again. He hurriedly rode into the lane. When he arrived at the door, he saw that this group of people had gone overboard, which led to this scene. Chapter 569. Just you bunch of mad dogs, are you worthy for me to hide? Just now, I just happened to not be around. In front of the Li residence, Li Zixuan looked at Cui Yunhan in front of him and said sarcastically. He just descended from the sky, and the aura that he emitted was not something that Brother Chicken could compare with. This group of scholars were immediately frightened and did not dare to take another step forward. But hearing his words, many scholars' faces flashed with a trace of anger. They were all cultured people, How can they be called mad dogs? Cui Yunhan asked with an ugly expression. Who are you calling mad dogs? Li Zixuan smiled contemptuously and said, I am talking about all of you. Look at all of you now. If you are not mad dogs, then what are you? With your current appearance, you still have the nerve to call yourselves the disciples of saints? You keep on saying that what you learned is the teachings of saints. Did saints teach you to barge into private residences in broad daylight? Did saints teach you that you don't know the hierarchy and have no respect for your elders? Please don't smear the face of saints. Behind the door, Han Yushi, who knew that Li Zixuan had already rushed back, couldn't help but feel excited when she heard these words. Last time, although those women surrounded the Li residence, but from a woman's point of view, she sympathized with those people who lost their husbands, so she didn't have much ill feelings towards them. But today, the nature was completely different. These scholars in front of the door almost barged into the residence just now. How is this behavior different from robbers? Furthermore, there are so many women in the residence. If these people came in, wouldn't it ruin their reputation? Therefore, when she heard Li Zixuan scolding the scholars, Han Yushi felt very relieved in her heart. She felt relieved, but Cui Yunhan was almost angered to death. After taking a few deep breaths, this fellow said, You are going too far. You are an important official of the imperial court in vain, but your mouth is full of filthy words. We are here today to unveil your ugly face. Ugly? Li Zixuan chuckled coldly and said, Then why don't you tell me how I'm ugly? Cui Yunhan said righteously, You promote miscellaneous studies and deceive the people. You are a disgrace to saints, and you are a disciple of saints in vain. In order to lure more people to learn your skills, you did not hesitate to let Tang daily become a tool for you to promote your skills. You are the scum of my Tang dynasty, shameful. Li Zixuan used his pinky finger to dig his ears and then asked, I have learned martial arts from my master since young. I learned Taoism, not Confucianism. How did I become a disciple of saints? You said that this duke promotes miscellaneous studies and deceives the people. Then what is miscellaneous studies? Could it be that all the theories outside of Confucianism are miscellaneous? Do you dare to say that? Cui Yunhan saw Li Zixuan staring at him with burning eyes. He hesitated for a while and did not know how to answer. However, Li Zixuan didn't give him the opportunity to hesitate. Step by step, he pressed. His Majesty has established more than 50 different subjects for the imperial examinations: Xiaocai, Ming Jing, Jinshi, Ming Fa, Ming Calligraphy, Ming Swan, and so on. According to what you said, other than the 3 subjects of Xiaocai, Ming Jing, and Jinshi, the rest are all miscellaneous subjects that are unnecessary to establish? Are you wiser than His Majesty? Also, Yanhuang College was established after His Majesty discussed with the officials in the imperial court. You are just a student without any achievements. Do you dare to question the decision of His Majesty and the officials in the imperial court? After coming to the Tang Dynasty for so long, Li Zixuan was no longer the ignorant person who knew nothing about the current situation of the Tang Dynasty, especially since he originally intended to set up an academy. As the principal of a school, of course he would specially do some research on the imperial examination system of this era. The more he understood, the more confident he was. This was because he realized that the cultural environment in the early Tang Dynasty was really relaxed. There was no situation where only Confucianism could survive and other skills were all miscellaneous studies. This could be seen from Li Erding's imperial examination system. There were more than 50 types of subjects, which could be said to cover all fields of knowledge. Hearing this, Cui Yunhan's face turned green and white. Even if he was given 10 guts, he would not dare to say anything bad about Li Erding and the officials in the imperial court. If he really said that, no one could save him. The rest of the scholars who had come to cause trouble were also speechless. They were no longer as arrogant as before. They didn't have pig brains. How would they dare to accept such a sensitive topic? In the end, Cui Yunhan was not willing to admit defeat. He gritted his teeth and argued, "Even if what you said is reasonable, it does not change the fact that you use Tang daily to promote your skills and deceive the people. All the news in the Tang Dynasty daily is based on fact. How can you say that it's false?" Cui Yunhan said, "You said that skills can allow one to travel 1,000 miles in a day, and that skills can allow one to fly above the 9 heavens. Isn't this promotion? Isn't this purposely exaggerating the facts? Let me ask you, who in the world has seen something that can allow one to travel 1,000 miles in a day or fly above the 9 heavens?" The rest of the scholars' eyes lit up. They felt that they had found something to criticize. Hence they all excitedly shouted, "That's right! How can there be such a tool in the world? You must be bragging. That's right, that's right. You are purposely making up lies to deceive the people." Li Zixuan crossed his arms and looked at Cui Yunhan and the rest as if they were idiots. He said contemptuously, "What a bunch of retards! Just because you haven't seen it before, does it mean that it doesn't exist in the world? Without investigation, you have no right to speak. Within 3 years, you will definitely see that kind of tool that can travel 1,000 miles in a day. Furthermore, it was made by my Yanhuang College. As for that flying tool that can carry people, have you not heard of it? Half a month ago, I destroyed the Snake Spirit Mountain by myself. I sat on that kind of tool and flew up. Have you guys not heard of it?" Cui Yunhan was shocked. After such a long time, he had almost forgotten about it. However, after thinking about it, he said with relief, "That flying tool is just your side of the story. If you really have that kind of thing, why would you hide it from others? There must be something fishy." After saying that, Cui Yunhan felt that his analysis was very reasonable. In his opinion, if anyone had such a heaven-defying tool, they would definitely show it off everywhere. However, Li Zixuan had not done anything for such a long time. There must be something fishy about it. Perhaps the rumor that Li Zixuan flew up the Snake Spirit Mountain was fabricated. Li Zixuan was so angry that he was amused. He sneered and said, "Huh? Do you think that everyone is like you? Once you have something good, you must let the whole world know about it? If you keep a low profile, you will think that others are lying? I have to say, you are really an idiot." Chapter 570. In the Ganlu Palace, Li Er was quietly flipping through the memorials. Perhaps the contents of the memorials made him unhappy. He frowned and looked very serious. Although it was a rest day and there was no need for morning court, Li Er, as the ruler of a country, would not give himself a day off like the other courtiers. He still had to read through the backlog of memorials. It was really tough. "Your Majesty, there is a group of students from the Hongwen Institute causing a ruckus in front of Li Zhanshi's house. There are many people gathered in Yongla Lane now." Zhao Song walked in from outside the hall. Initially, he saw that Li Er was concentrating on reviewing the memorials and did not dare to disturb him. He did not expect Li Er to suddenly raise his head, as though he had sensed his arrival. Li Er frowned and said, "Why are there people surrounding his house again?" Zhao Song cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, it is said that the group of students felt that Li Zhanshi was promoting engineering in the newspaper and deceiving the people. They wanted to argue with Li Zhanshi face to face. At first, Li Zhanshi was not at home and the group of students wanted to barge into the Li residence. Fortunately, Li Zhanshi rushed back in time." Li Er heard this and his eyes flashed fiercely. He said angrily, "How dare you? There are people who dare to barge into the residence of an important courtier in broad daylight. Do these people still have the imperial court in their eyes? Do they still have me? Send a decree immediately and let Dugu Xian lead the imperial army to chase them away. Those who are unwilling to leave, arrest them all. Oh right, bring the student who started the ruckus to the Supreme Court for interrogation. If he has ulterior motives, expel him from the school and never enroll him again. Zhao Song could not help but be stunned. He did not expect that Li Er would be so angry and give such a heavy punishment for an ordinary ruckus. It was really illogical. Although that was what he thought, Zhao Song did not dare to ask. He bowed and said, "Yes, Your Majesty." Then, he prepared to go out and make the arrangement. Li Er suddenly asked, "How is the Supreme Court's interrogation of Jiang Cuihua from last time? Did they find out the mastermind?" Zhao Song stopped in his tracks and thought for a while. He cupped his hands and said, "Your Majesty, according to Jiang Cuihua, she was indeed instructed by someone. However, she did not see the person's face. Judging from the voice, it should be a young man around 20 years old." "A young man in his 20s? Li Er furrowed his brows and ordered thoughtfully, "Let the people from the Supreme Court interrogate the student who led the trouble today. See if he has any connection with the previous incident." Zhao Song had an idea. He bowed and said, "Yes." Li Er waved his hand and Zhao Song retreated. Then, he leaned against the dragon throne and closed his eyes in deep thought. He was indeed very angry just now, especially when he heard the words advocating engineering and deceiving the people. He was so angry that he wanted to arrest everyone who was causing trouble in the Li family. After experiencing the annihilation of the Snake Spirit Mountain, Li Er realized that Li Zixuan was far more important than he had imagined. The celestial lamp and gunpowder. These two things seemed to have opened the door to a new world for him. For the first time, he realized that engineering could not only play a role in the people's livelihood, education, and production, but it could also play an even bigger role in the military. Li Er had never been so eager for Li Zixuan to quickly build Yanhuang College and train a group of engineers. When that time came, Goguryeo and the Northern Turks would be like thin paper in front of the armed Tang Empire. At that time, he, Li Shimin, would achieve a hegemony that even Qin Huang and Han Wu could not achieve. Such a beautiful vision, just thinking about it made one's blood boil. And now, there was actually someone who used engineering as an unorthodox theory to talk about it, and even made Li Zixuan's whole family restless. How could Li Er tolerate such a pig teammate? Bring today's Tang daily for me to see. After a while, Li Er opened his eyes and ordered the servants in the hall. "Yes." Stupid C***NT? In front of Li Zixuan's residence, Cui Yunhan was stunned. Of course, he did not know what stupid C***NT meant, but his intuition told him that this word definitely meant something bad. "Didn't you see Li Zixuan's mocking face?" Cui Yunhan, who had always been pampered, had never suffered such humiliation. His face turned red and he said angrily, You actually scolded me again?" Li Zixuan curled his lips and said, "Scolded you? So what if I scolded you? Scolding you is already considered light. You brat, you brought these people to my residence to cause trouble and even wanted to barge into my residence. I don't care who you are, but today's matter will not end well." After saying that, he turned his head and said, "Feiji, capture all these people. Whoever dares to resist, beat them up ruthlessly. Just leave them with one last breath." The actions of these scholars today had completely angered Li Zixuan. If the tiger did not show its might, people would really treat him like a sick cat? Everyone took in a cold breath. What did he mean by just leave them with one last breath? He was going to beat them to death. But these people in front of them were the top students of the Hongwen school. Ah, Lord, this. Pang Feiji's eyes widened. He could not believe his ears and said hesitantly. Li Zixuan snorted in an unfriendly tone, "What? You still don't dare? If I tell you to beat them, then beat them. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility." Pang Feiji shivered and said hurriedly, "Yes, Lord. I won't hide it from you. Our brothers have tolerated these people for a long time." After saying that, he turned his head and shouted, "What are you all standing there for? Hurry up! Beat them up with all your might." Yes. Seeing a group of tall and sturdy men carrying sticks rushing over, the students were shocked. At this moment, they suddenly remembered that this young man in front of them was a peerless, ruthless person who slaughtered an entire sect by himself not long ago. He killed people without batting an eyelid. Li Zishuan, you dare? We are all students of the Hongwen school. If you dare to beat us up, His Majesty will not let you off. Cui Yunhan shouted in fear. Li Zishuan curled his lips and snorted indifferently. Why wouldn't I dare? Pang Feiji, hurry up and do it. Pang Feiji hurriedly replied. Then, he flew forward and grabbed Cui Yunhan's arm effortlessly and lifted him up. The rest of the guards followed suit and rushed towards the 50 students. Brother Chicken was right. Previously, when these scholars crashed into the mansion, they were afraid that they would cause trouble for Li Zishuan. Therefore, they only used their physical bodies to block them and did not fight back at all. They had suffered a lot and were still suppressing their anger. Wait. Li Zhanshi, stop first. At this moment, a group of soldiers galloped over on horseback. The officer in the lead shouted at Li Zishuan. Chapter 571. General, you're here at the right time. You're here at the right time. This Li Zishuan instigated his servant to commit a crime in front of everyone. He has no respect for the law. Hurry up and arrest him. When Cui Yunhan saw the group of soldiers coming over, he couldn't help but be overjoyed. While Brother Chicken was in a daze, he suddenly broke free and ran to the leading general and complained loudly. That young general was stunned and asked, "Did you bring all these students here?" "Yes." Cui Yunhan nodded subconsciously. Then, he felt that it was inappropriate to say that, so he changed his word. "No, they are. Arrest him and bring him away." The young general didn't listen to Cui Yunhan's explanation at all. He waved his hand and ordered. "Yes, sir." 2 Forbidden Army soldiers immediately came up from behind and captured Cui Yunhan like an eagle catching a chick. Hey! You've got the wrong person. It's Li Zishuan who is committing a crime in front of everyone. Let me go. Cui Yunhan was dumbfounded. When he came back to his senses, he kicked his legs and roared. That young general didn't even look at him. Instead, he went up to Li Zishuan and bowed respectfully. He cupped his fists and said, "Sir, His Majesty ordered me to bring the person who is causing trouble away. Please make things easier for me." Li Zishuan laughed. "Ha! It's Jiping. Can I not make things easier for you since you're here? Bring him away." The young general was taken aback and said in surprise, "Lord Zhu actually still remembers this general. This general is extremely honored." Li Zishuan sighed and said, "How many of the soldiers around Duguxin don't I know? Speaking of which, why didn't he come personally?" The young general's name was Sun Jiping. He was a soldier in the Forbidden Army. He also participated in the attack on Snake Spirit Mountain. Li Zishuan had a good memory and vaguely remembered that Duguxin called his name a few times. It was also because he had participated in that great battle that Sun Jiping's attitude towards Li Zishuan was so respectful. Although the man in front of him was young, he had annihilated a sect and avenged his fellow soldiers. He was worthy of Sun Jiping's lifelong respect. "Sir, General Duguxin took leave a few days ago. That's why I brought the soldiers here." When Li Zishuan gave the order, he only asked Duguxin to bring the soldiers over and forgot that Duguxin took leave. Zhao Song was too busy pondering the emperor's will and forgot about it. When he went to Baya and couldn't find Duguxin, he realized it. However, the situation was urgent, and it was too late for him to go back and ask for a new order. Of Duguxin's situation's mind, so he sent Sun Jiping. "I see. Then you go and do your work first." Although Li Zishuan was curious about why Duguxin took leave, he also knew that it wasn't the time to gossip. Didn't he see that a few scholars were preparing to sneak away? Sun Jiping cupped his hands in acknowledgement, then turned to the scholars and said coldly, "You have gathered in broad daylight to cause trouble." His Majesty was very angry when he heard about this and ordered you to leave immediately. If there is a next time, he will definitely punish you severely. If anyone still refuses to realize their mistake and stays here, they will be expelled from school immediately. Buzz buzz. Expelled from school? Oh my God, let's go, let's go. This Cui Yunhan has really screwed us over. General, it was Cui Yunhan who instigated us to come here. It has nothing to do with us. That's right. All of this has nothing to do with us. We will leave now. Yes, 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 let's leave now. All the students were shocked. They didn't expect that today's incident would be so serious that they were almost expelled from school. How could they let that happen? Without their school status, their identity as scholars that they were proud of would be gone. They wouldn't be able to get scholarly honors for the rest of their lives. Wouldn't that be asking for their lives? Therefore, as soon as Sun Jiping's voice fell, the scholars scattered like birds and beasts, fleeing in all directions. They were afraid that Sun Jiping would misunderstand and expel them from the school if they were too late. Only 2 scholars looked at Sun Jiping with a complicated look in their eyes, and then slowly left the scene. Hey, hey, hey! I want to leave too. Let go of me. I won't cause trouble anymore. I will leave now. Seeing that he was the only one who was caught, Cui Yunhan couldn't help but panic. Behave yourself, Sun Jiping reprimanded. Then, he cupped his hands and bid farewell to Li Zixuan before leading his team away. The farce came and went quickly. It ended just like that. Let's go, let's go. Let's go home. Sigh. That doll has been taken away. Now it's all good. Peace and quiet. I wonder how His Majesty will deal with that scholar. When the onlookers saw that there was no more drama to watch, they began to gossip while preparing to slip away. They each returned to their own homes and mothers. At this moment, they heard Li Zixuan shout, "Everyone, please wait. I have something to say." Hearing that, the crowd stopped and turned their attention back to Li Zixuan curiously. Li Zixuan saw that they stayed and continued, "Among you, there should be many who read today's newspaper, right? For those who read the newspaper, there must be some who, like those scholars, think that I am bragging and purposely exaggerating my skills. Haha, it's useless to say more. You won't believe my one-sided words. Now, I am making an agreement with all of you and the people of Chang'an. Tomorrow, yes, tomorrow night, you will witness a miracle. At that time, you will understand that what Tang Daily said today is all true. The reason why he said this to these people was that there were many students among them. This could be considered as a change of direction to advertise Yanhuang College and engineering. Secondly, he hoped to improve the ordinary people's impression of engineering. This would be beneficial for future enrollment. Tomorrow night? Lordly, can you tell us what will happen tomorrow night? Yes, yes. Lord Ju, can you tell us in advance? Everyone saw Li Zixuan's current amiable appearance, and was no longer as ferocious as before, so they all asked curiously. Haha. Tomorrow night you will know. Everyone, you can leave now. Li Zixuan smiled and didn't give them an answer. Instead, he turned around and went back into the mansion. The crowd sighed in disappointment and left in groups of 3 to 5. Husband. In the courtyard, Han Yushi smiled sweetly and called out softly. Although the situation this time was more dangerous than the last time, her man was by her side, sheltering her from the wind and rain. This made her feel very happy. I have frightened my wife. Where are father and mother? Li Zixuan squeezed his wife's hand, comforted her softly, and then asked. Han Yushi said softly, Father and mother are in the front hall. Husband, go and take a look. Li Zixuan nodded and pulled Han Yushi to the front hall. Chapter 572. Monthly Pass +1. Li Jingma and Madame Li were also shocked by the commotion outside. Li Zishuan talked to the two elders in the room for a while before he walked out. He called Brother Ji to the west courtyard and asked, "Feiji, how's the interrogation of Jiang Tsuehua from last time going? Why is it that after so long, they still haven't found the mastermind?" Pang Feiji replied, "Lord Zhu, I've asked the people in the Supreme Court about this. According to Jiang Tsuehua, someone gave her 100 strings of cash and asked her to instigate those women who had lost their husbands to come here and cause trouble. However, the person who instigated her was wearing a bamboo hat and didn't show up, so she didn't know who that person was. She only knew that it was a man around 20 years old." Li Zishuan snorted coldly and said, "Still hiding your head but showing your tail? No matter where you hide, I'll find you. Feiji, if anyone dares to block my door in the future, you don't have to worry about anything. If you should chase them away, chase them away. If you can't chase them away, beat them to death. If anything happens, I'll take responsibility. If I can't even take care of my own family, what's the point of being a Lord Zhu?" Pang Feiji shrunk his neck. Li Zishuan looked like he was really angry. He could only salute and agree. "I understand. Don't worry, Lord Zhu. In the future, no one will be a threat to the people in the mansion." Li Zishuan replied with an N, and let Brother Ji do his work. He went to inform Han Yushi and then went to Chongren Lane to look for Su Hongji. Su Hongji had been partners with Li Zishuan for a few months, and he had a very good relationship with Li Zishuan. After Su Hongji figured out Li Zishuan's intentions, he immediately agreed to Li Zishuan's request. He even urged Li Zishuan to quickly write the next volume of mathematics textbooks for him. He wanted to learn in advance. Li Zishuan naturally agreed. After coming out of Su Hongji's house, Li Zishuan looked at the time and went straight home. When he walked to the door, he saw a woman in white standing under the ginkgo tree next to the door, and it was an acquaintance, Leng Yuyao. "Miss Leng? Since you're already here, why don't you come in and have a seat?" Li Zishuan stepped forward and greeted him. When Leng Yuyao saw Li Zishuan, she was slightly relieved. She took out a note from the purse at her waist and handed it to Li Zishuan. She said, "No need. This is what my young master asked me to give you. Since it's here, I'll take my leave first." The reason why she would rather stand outside and bask in the sun than go in was mainly because she was afraid that the people in the mansion would misunderstand. Although she had come to the Li family with Wang Renbiao before, at that time, Li Zishuan hadn't married Han Yushi yet. If she went in at this time and was misunderstood by Han Yushi, it would be awkward. Li Zishuan opened the note strangely, and then his expression changed. He quickly called out to Leng Yuyao and asked, "Miss Leng, please wait." Leng Yuyao stopped in her tracks and turned to look at him in confusion. She clearly meant to ask if there was anything else. Li Zishuan picked up the note and asked, "Renbiao, what's the meaning of this?" "It's literally what it means," Leng Yuyao replied expressionlessly. Although her attitude towards Li Zishuan wasn't the same as before, she didn't want to kill him. But that was it. The only person in the world who could make her smile was Wang Renbiao. As for other people, it was a blessing to be able to talk to them normally. If she used the sword in her hand to talk, then the other party was unlucky. Li Zishuan was choked by this sentence. He took a deep breath and asked again, "What I mean is Renbiao saying that the Chui family was doing something a while ago?" Leng Yuyao still used a calm tone to reply, "I don't know." "Then who from the Chui family went to the gathering of the 5 great families last time?" Li Zishuan was speechless. After a moment, he thought and asked. Leng Yuyao didn't say that she didn't know this time. She thought seriously before answering. "It seems to be Chui Xuanji and Chui Shin from Qinghe Chui and Bowling Chui respectively." Li Zishuan nodded and said, "Okay. I understand. Thank you for telling me, Miss Leng." Leng Yuyao replied with an and then floated away. Wife, what are you doing in the courtyard on such a hot day?" After seeing Leng Yuyao walk away, Li Zishuan turned and entered the residence. He saw Han Yushi with her back facing him and walking quickly to the front hall. So, he couldn't help but chase after her and ask. When Han Yushi heard his voice, her body instantly froze on the spot. She looked flustered and said helplessly, Nothing, nothing. Husband, you're back. Let's go for lunch. Dad and Mom are waiting for you. Li Zixuan was even more suspicious and asked again, Really nothing? Han Yushi hurriedly said, Really nothing. Husband, quickly go and eat. Oh. Although Li Zixuan didn't believe it, Han Yushi didn't want to say it, and he didn't want to get to the bottom of it. So, he shook his head and went into the house to eat. Han Yushi, who was behind him, pouted and muttered softly, What a fool! After lunch, the couple returned to the west courtyard. According to the usual practice, this was the time to take a nap. However, Li Zixuan didn't take a nap today. Instead, he bent over a few tables and wrote a manuscript. It had to be said that for the sake of Yanhuang College, he sacrificed too much of his rest time as a big otaku. Wife, didn't I tell you to sleep first? Why aren't you sleeping? Feeling that there was someone behind him, Li Zixuan smiled slightly and said without looking back. Han Yushi stammered, I can't sleep. Li Zixuan put down the pen in his hand and turned his head to ask in confusion, Why? He wanted to say that he didn't have time to sleep even if he wanted to. Why was there someone who had time to sleep but couldn't sleep? Han Yushi avoided his gaze and said hesitantly, My husband, who was the girl who looked for you this morning? Sweat. So it's because of this. At this moment, Li Zixuan understood even if he was stupid. He found it funny and said, That girl is the maid of the Wang family's young master. What's wrong? Is my wife jealous? Han Yushi was relieved at first, and then she asked doubtfully, Jealous? I didn't get jealous at noon? Ahem. Li Zixuan was stunned. Only then did he remember that Li Er hadn't given Fang Xuanling's wife the poisonous wine yet, so the other meaning of the word jealous hadn't been developed yet. He patted his head and changed the topic. Well, my wife, you should be relieved now. Go to sleep. I'll come over after I finish writing this manuscript. Han Yushi looked embarrassed and said, What do you mean by relieved or not relieved? Husband, what are you talking about? At this time, she inadvertently glanced at the manuscript Li Zixuan was writing and saw that the title was, On a Full Moon Night, Flying Immortals from Outer Space. Chapter 573. The Night of the Full Moon, Flying Immortal from Outer Space? In the room, after Han Yushi saw the title of Li Zixuan's manuscript, she couldn't help but wonder, Husband, are you preparing to write a new novel? Outsiders didn't know that The Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality was written by Li Zixuan, but how could Han Yushi not know? That was why she asked this question. Li Zixuan shook his head and said with a smile, That's not it. By the way, didn't you suspect that I have a relationship with other women just now? I'll give you a surprise tomorrow night and let you understand my feelings. Han Yushi was embarrassed, but she still said stubbornly, I didn't suspect you. Besides, you're young and have a bright future. It's normal even if you have 3 wives and 4 concubines. I won't throw a tantrum with you. Li Zixuan looked into her eyes and asked mischievously, If I marry other women, will you really not be unhappy? Han Yushi's pretty face turned pale. She bit her lips and said bitterly, I won't be unhappy. Seeing her like this, Li Zixuan couldn't bear to tease her anymore. He said softly, Little fool. I was just teasing you. Whether rich or poor, I, Li Zixuan, have my wife in this life. I won't marry anyone else. Han Yushi widened her eyes in surprise and said in disbelief, Husband, is what you said true? Although it was popular in ancient times to have 3 wives and 4 concubines, that was only because the situation forced it. In fact, which woman was willing to share her husband with other women? Han Yushi just said that because she didn't want Li Zixuan to think that she didn't see the big picture and didn't want her parents-in-law and neighbors to say that she was jealous. Of course, she didn't want Li Zixuan to marry a concubine. Looking at Han Yushi's cute appearance with her eyes wide open, Li Zixuan couldn't help but lightly touch her pure white forehead with his lips, and then said with a smile, "Of course it's true, when have I ever lied to you? That day when we bowed to heaven and earth, I said that I wanted to be a celestial couple with my wife that everyone in the world would envy. Haha, let's start tomorrow night." "What? Haha. You'll understand tomorrow night." Han Yushi playfully rolled her eyes and suddenly said, "Oh right, husband, tomorrow is the Mid-Autumn Festival. We have to worship the moon and eat round pancakes at night." Li Zixuan was stunned when he heard this. He guessed that the round pancakes were probably mooncakes, but he didn't expect this custom to start in the Tang Dynasty. He couldn't help but feel homesick as he recalled the Mid-Autumn Festival in his previous life. According to legend, mooncakes originally originated in the early Tang Dynasty. During the reign of Wu De, Great General Li Jing defeated the Xiongnu and returned triumphantly on the 15th of August. At that time, there were Turpan businessmen who offered Li Yuan cakes to celebrate his victory. Li Yuan took the gorgeous cake box, took out the round pancakes, and smiled as he pointed to the moon in the sky and said, "I should invite the toad with the pancakes." After saying that, he distributed the pancakes to the officials to taste together. From then on, there was the custom of eating pancakes on the Mid-Autumn Festival. At that time, the rich families would generally set up incense tables to worship the moon during the Mid-Autumn Festival. Round pancakes, watermelons, apples, grapes, and other offerings were all available. Among them, round pancakes and watermelons were absolutely indispensable. Exquisite families even specially cut watermelons into lotus-shaped offerings. But at that time, there was no such thing as mooncakes. In fact, mooncakes only existed in the southern Song dynasty. It was only in the Ming dynasty that there were accurate records of eating mooncakes on the Mid-Autumn Festival. Haha. It's okay. We can worship the moon and eat round pancakes after we come back tomorrow night. Wife, quickly go to sleep. After a long while, Li Zixuan woke up from his memories. He patted Han Yushi's shoulder and smiled gently. Okay. Yo. On the night of the full moon, flying immortals from beyond the heavens. What does Mr. Li mean? The next morning, some people who bought the newspaper couldn't help but discuss with their companions after seeing today's headlines. Sigh. Lord Li personally mentioned this matter yesterday, and I was still there at that time. But Lord Li didn't say what exactly it was. Yesterday? Oh, I heard that a group of scholars blocked Lord Li's house yesterday. Is that true? Yes. It even alarmed the emperor. The leading student has already been arrested by the imperial army. Sigh. This group of scholars is really ungrateful. They've wasted all their knowledge. Lord Li is such a good person, and they still have the face to cause trouble. Sigh, but Lord Li also told us yesterday that he would let the entire Chang and city witness a miracle tonight. He wants to prove that the so-called engineering in the newspaper is not a lie. Heh. Then there's a lot to see tonight. It's the Mid-Autumn Festival, and we can watch the fun. Haha. That's right, that's right. At this moment, hundreds of thousands of people in Chang and were silently looking forward to the arrival of night. Imperial City, Changle Palace. Wow. Is Brother Xiao Xian going to show everyone the fairy lamp? I'm so looking forward to it. Changle leaned against the couch, holding the newspaper in her hand. After reading the headlines, an extremely bright smile immediately flashed on her exquisite little face. Her watery eyes were filled with longing. Ordinary people didn't know about the fairy lamp, but as the princess of the Tang dynasty, Changle naturally knew about it long ago. As smart as she was, she almost instantly thought of what Li Zixuan was going to do at night from the words, "On the night of the full moon, flying immortals." She couldn't help but feel envious. If Changle can go up to the fairy lamp once, then even if I immediately die of illness, I won't complain. But tonight is the Mid-Autumn Festival. I have to accompany father and mother for dinner. I can't leave the palace. Changle held her small face and was in a daze. After a moment she muttered to herself. South of Chong and City, Dunhua Square, East County Duke's Mansion. Eldest uncle, hurry up and save Yunhan. A fat middle-aged man with an oily face hurriedly ran to the backyard and shouted anxiously at Cui Junchuo, who was resting with her eyes closed in the courtyard. Cui Junchuo opened her eyes with extreme dissatisfaction and scolded in a muffled voice. What are you shouting for? Look at yourself. Do you still look like a father? The middle-aged man cried and said, Eldest uncle, something happened to Yunhan. How can I continue to be calm? Hurry up and think of a way to save Yunhan. It turned out that this person was Cui Yunhan's biological father, Cui Simo. His father, Cui Junsu, was Cui Junchuo's brother. However, in the Cui family of Cui Yenmu, the title of nobility was passed down to Cui Junchuo. Therefore, now that something happened to Cui Yunhan, Cui Simo didn't go to Cui Junsu for help. Instead, he came to Cui Junchuo for help. After all, in the current Cui family of Qinghe, Cui Junchuo's title was the highest. Cui Junchuo was stunned. Then, she asked with an ugly expression, what happened to Yunhan? Shouldn't he be in the Hongwen Museum? Chapter 574. At night, the moon was bright and the stars were sparse. When night fell, an extremely bright moon slowly rose from the horizon. In this era where there were no street lamps, neon lights, or LED advertising screens, this bright moon was extremely eye-catching at night. The term Mid-Autumn Festival was first recorded in the Rites of Zhou. The Book of Rites, Moon Order said, the Mid-Autumn Moon nourishes the old and nourishes the old. The custom of the Mid-Autumn Festival was to worship the moon at the beginning. The Book of Rites recorded, the Emperor's spring morning sun and the autumn moon. The autumn moon was to worship the moon. This meant that the emperor had already started worshipping the moon as early as the spring and autumn period. Later on, the aristocrats, officials, and scholars followed suit and gradually spread it to the people. Later on, the Mid-Autumn Festival was gradually used to celebrate the harvest. This was because the Mid-Autumn Festival in August was the season for crops and fruits to ripen. Tonight, the curfew in Chang'an City was lifted. Therefore, although the sky was dark, the streets outside were still very lively. All kinds of vendors selling small toys began to wander the streets and alleys. Lanterns had also become the favorite plaything of the rich young masters and young ladies. Laughter and exclamations could be heard everywhere. Although there were no stars in the sky, the colorful lanterns gradually rose to replace the stars and adorned the night sky. Brother! Brother! I want to sit too. I want to sit in the fairy lantern too. In the west courtyard of the Li residence, Lan'er tugged on Li Zishuan's arm and kept acting coquettishly. Today was the Mid-Autumn Festival. Of course, Lan'er couldn't continue to stay in the Han family village. Mrs. Li personally went to fetch the little girl back early in the morning. Li Zishuan facepalmed. He didn't know where this little girl got the news from. He had clearly brought his wife here in secret. However, in this situation, he could only helplessly say, Lan'er, next time. We can't carry too many people on it at once. Otherwise, it will fall from the sky. After brother brings Yushi down, I'll bring you up to play, okay? Lan'er looked up at Han Yushi. After hesitating for a while, she said, all right. Then brother, you have to keep your word. Li Zishuan laughed and said, of course. Han Yushi bent over and patted Lan'er's little head. She smiled and said, Lan'er, don't worry. When he doesn't bring you along, I won't listen to him either. Lan'er nodded happily. Okay. Then, the little girl skipped down the corridor to watch the fun. Husband, can this really withstand the two of us? At this point, Han Yushi looked at the hanging basket and became a little hesitant and afraid. She grabbed Li Zixuan's arm and said worriedly. Li Zixuan smiled and comforted her, "Don't worry, my wife. The celestial lamp will definitely be able to withstand the weight of 2 people. I'm confident about this. Besides, even if there is an accident, I will protect you. Let's go up." In fact, there wouldn't be much of a problem even if 3 people came up together, let alone 2 people. The reason why he didn't let Lan come up together was mainly because Li Zixuan wanted to take Han Yushi for a romantic time. Recently, he had been running around for the Academy and the Snake Spirit Mountain. He didn't have much time to accompany his wife. Today, he could take this opportunity to make up for it. Okay. Han Yushi heard that and felt a little relieved. She lifted the corner of her skirt and successfully boarded the hanging basket with Li Zixuan's help. Then, Li Zixuan quickly untied the rope that fixed the hanging basket. Then, he also boarded the hanging basket and ignited the kerosene above the hanging basket. A moment later, the heavy hanging basket gradually overcame the gravity of the earth under the effect of the strong lifting force of the hot air. It slowly left the ground and rose into the sky, rising higher and higher. The servants of the Li residence looked at the huge ball of fire in the sky and were stunned. They were close, but they saw Li Zixuan and Han Yushi fly directly into the sky after sitting on the hanging basket. This kind of shock was not felt by others. Wah wah wah. We can really fly. Brother. Sister Yushi. You guys have to come down quickly. Don't run too far. Lan also wants to sit on it. Lan saw that the celestial lamp had successfully ascended into the sky. She did not care if others could hear her and hurriedly shouted towards the man and woman in the sky. Wah! Young master and young madam really flew into the sky. They are flying so high. Xiao He opened her eyes wide and exclaimed in surprise. Xiao Shi's eyes were filled with enchantment. Following beside Li Zixuan, she could always feel an endless stream of surprises. She looked at the handsome man and beautiful woman in the sky and sighed softly. Young master is so good to young madam. What's wrong? Xiao Shi, are you starting to have feelings for young master? Although Xiao Shi's voice was soft, Xiao He heard it clearly. She, who had a lively personality, smirked and teased Xiao Shi. Yeah. Xiao He, what nonsense are you saying? Young master and young madam are so good to us. How can you say that? I'm not going to talk to you. Xiao Shi said shyly. This time, Li Zixuan did not let the celestial lamp fly too high. It was only about 5 stories high. So, when he and Han Yushi flew out of the mansion, the people on the streets reflected the bright moonlight and immediately saw the outline of the celestial lamp clearly. Wah! Mother, look! Look! What a huge lantern! A young boy who was eating candy and looked dignified saw the celestial lamp in the sky and quickly pulled the woman beside him and shouted excitedly. The beautiful woman looked up and exclaimed, "Who bought this sky lantern? Why is it so big?" In just a short while, more and more people noticed the strange phenomenon in the sky. Wow! Such a huge sky lantern! It seems to have flown out of the Li County men's mansion. Hey! Look, there are people on the sky lantern. How is that possible? Although the sky lantern is huge, how can it carry people? Damn! There are really people. And it's not just one person, there are 2 people. Wow! Isn't that young man in white Lord Li? Then the woman in white next to him must be Lord Li's wife? A talented man and a beautiful woman, a celestial couple. Countless people exclaimed at the celestial lamp under the moonlight. There were even people who were chasing after the celestial lamp. Luckily, it was only a light breeze tonight. Otherwise, these people would not be able to catch up even if they ran until their legs broke. Wow! I understand now. This is what Lord Li said in the newspaper today. Celestial flying on the night of the full moon. Lord Li wasn't lying when he said that engineering could make people fly. Oh, so that's it. Then what kind of engineering is this? It's really amazing. TSK. Compared to engineering, Lord Li's celestial couple is the one that is really enviable. Chapter 575. Monthly ticket +2. Wow. Hubby. We're really flying. In the sky, Han Yushi was 100 times more excited than the onlookers below. She looked at the buildings that were getting smaller and smaller below and felt very fresh. She had never been able to look at the magnificent Chang'an city from such a high position. She had also never been able to be with the person she loved so quietly and undisturbed. She was really satisfied. Li Zixuan smiled and lazily hugged Han Yushi's slender waist. He said, "Yes, we're flying. Only in the sky can we not be bound by any imperial power and secular etiquette. We can do whatever we want. There's only the two of us. Do you like it, my wife?" Han Yushi quickly nodded and replied, Yes, I like it very much. Thank you, hubby, for being so good to me." "Haha. My wife, I'll take you to tour Chang'an city tonight. Let them envy us, this immortal couple." His wife was really easy to satisfy, but Li Zixuan felt that it was not enough. He pointed to the other markets below and said with a smile. Han Yushi blinked and was very tempted, but in the end she shook her head and said, "Let's not. Lan is still waiting for us below. We'll just stay up there for a while and then go down." Li Zixuan laughed and said, "Haha. That little girl still has other friends to play with. Don't worry, my wife. If she doesn't see us in a while, she'll definitely go out and play with others. It's rare that the curfew in Chang'an city is lifted tonight. Let me accompany you. Tonight, millions of people will be envious of us." When Han Yushi heard that, she could no longer refuse. She said sweetly in her heart, "Yes." But then she seemed to think of something and looked up. "But hubby, the wind is blowing from the south now. Our fairy lantern can only float to the north. How can we tour Chang'an city?" Li Zixuan chuckled and said smugly, Wife, watch carefully. Watch my 18 dragon subduing palms. Oh. Quick look. There's a huge lantern in the sky." Li Zixuan was right. It was rare that there was no curfew in Chang'an tonight. So many people would not go to bed so early. Those who had money would go to the night market, while those who had no money would go to their homes to chat and beat their sons. All the markets were bustling. It was precisely because no one was sleeping and Li Zixuan was flying at a low altitude that the celestial lamp caused a huge commotion wherever it went. Wow! There are 2 more people up there. This should be the meaning of celestial flying on a full moon night, right? Surly really didn't lie. There seems to be another person dancing? Was Lord Ju's wife dancing for Lord Ju? They are so loving. But aren't they offending public decency by doing this in public? Tisk. If you have the ability, why don't you go up as well? You'll be offending public decency. Seriously. F***ck. No. That's not Madame Ju dancing, but Lord Ju boxing. What kind of F***king look are you guys looking at? Ah? Then Lord Ju is really good to Madame Ju? Ping Kong Fong. This was the most famous red light district in Chang'an city. It was commonly known as the Northern Li's famous flower district. In the Tang Dynasty, there was no rule that officials were not allowed to visit prostitute. As for the scholars who came to take the imperial examination, visiting their confidants at Ping Kong Fong was simply a semi-official activity. If anyone did not go, it would not be called chastity, but a country bumpkin. Therefore, in the past, although the doors of Ping Kong Fong were closed at night, the brothels in the square were still lit by red candles. There were dancing and dancing, couples coming and going, and singing in low voices tonight. There was no curfew in Chang'an, and Ping Kong Fong was even more lively. Many young people secretly came here to fool around in the name of going out to drink with their friend. Ping Kong Fong was full of traffic, and it seemed even more crowded. Master Hu, come in and play. Our Xiao Chui misses you very much. Baihua Building, the largest brothel in Ping Kong Fong. A middle-aged woman with heavy makeup pulled a fat man and laughed coquettishly. Am I not here now? Mother Hua, quickly ask Xiao Chui to come over. Hey, I'll be here soon. Mother Hua, where's your family's courtesan, Miss Yen? Why don't I see her? At this moment, a young man in luxurious clothes walked over and asked with an unhappy expression. Mother Hua's expression froze and she murmured, Young Master Nyo, Miss Yen hasn't been feeling well these few days. Wow, what a huge lantern! Why are there so many people following down there? At this moment, Li Zishuan's fairy lantern happened to pass by Ping Kong Fong. This huge fairy lantern shook everyone's heart. Mother Hua, that's Lord Li and his wife. They came from Yongla Lane, and they should be touring Chang and City. I heard it from those people just now. A page boy pointed at the commoners who were chasing after the fairy lantern and said to Mother Hua. After the surrounding ladies heard it, all of them became excited. Wow, Lord Li is such an affectionate young man. He's so handsome and gentle. Lord Li, wait for me. Can you let me go up there for a while? A girl in a pink dress suddenly screamed and chased after the people from before. You slut! Lord Li is mine. The power of role models was endless. If there was one, there would be a second. In the blink of an eye, a group of ladies ignored Mother Hua's obstruction and chased after the fairy lantern. In one of the attics in Hundred Flowers Tower, a lady in purple looked at the fairy lantern flying by outside the window and heard the crazy screams downstairs. She couldn't help but sigh. Miss Han is so lucky to be married to such a man. If there's someone who can treat me so well in this life, I, Fong Fian, would be willing to pay any price. Husband, they all seem to like you? On the fairy lantern, Han Yushi looked at the ladies who were chasing after them crazily and couldn't help but smile at Li Zishuan. Cough, cough. Li Zishuan wiped the cold sweat on his forehead and said awkwardly, Well, I only like my wife. Even if they catch up with me, I won't look at them. Han Yushi smiled and asked, Then why are you controlling the fairy lantern to pass by this place of prostitution? Li Zishuan, could he say that he was just curious? Chapter 576. In the West Court of the Imperial Palace, the people outside were celebrating the Mid-Autumn Festival. Of course, this place was also decorated with lanterns and colored banners. In an open space in the West Court, Li Er led a group of concubines and more than a dozen children to stand in front of the incense table and worship the statue of the moon goddess devoutly. There were moon cakes, watermelons, apples, red dates, plums, grapes, and other offerings on the incense table. The statue of the moon goddess was placed in the direction of the rising moon. The incense table and red candles were solemn. Looking at their posture, they should be praying to the moon. Speaking of praying to the moon, the story of Saltless praying to the moon had to be mentioned. It was said that the ugly girl of the ancient Qi state, Wuyen, prayed to the moon devoutly when she was young. When she grew up, she entered the palace with outstanding virtue, but was not favored. On the 15th of August, Wuyen was praying to the moon. King Xian of Qi happened to see Wuyen under the moonlight. He felt that she was beautiful and outstanding, so he made her his queen. That was how the tradition of praying to the moon came about. Chang'e of the moon was famous for her beauty. Therefore, the girl prayed to the moon and wished to be, like Chang'e, with a face like the bright moon. The story of Saltless praying to the moon first appeared in the biography of the women, written by Lu Xiang of the Western Han Dynasty. Wuyen, also known as Zhong Wuyen, was shockingly ugly. She had a wide forehead, small eyes, a high nose, a big throat, a hunchback, and a thick neck. But in the end, Zhong Wuyen became a typical representative of, the sea cannot be measured with a pint pot, and people cannot be judged by their appearance, through her own efforts. May the Tang Empire be free of disasters and have good weather. Li'er looked at the bright moon in the sky and sighed faintly. There were less than 10 months left before the locust plague mentioned by Li Zixuan. He was somewhat uncertain. In the past few days, he had been concerned about the harvest of various places. He even personally went to the farms near Chang'an several times. It could be said that he was worried sick. Your Majesty, don't worry. The Tang Empire is established according to the will of heaven and will be protected by heaven. Empress Zhongsun knew what her husband was worried about. She smiled and comforted him softly. Yes. Wow. Father, mother, look. What is that? Changle, who was at the side, suddenly saw a ball of fire floating in the southern sky. He couldn't help exclaiming in shock. Li'er, Zhongsun, Li Qingxian, Li Tai, Li Ku, and the princess of Xiangqing all looked in the direction of Changle's finger. They saw an extremely bright flame floating in the sky far to the south. It seemed to be moving slowly. Zhao Song, get someone to check if this is Li Zixuan's doing. This ball of flame was very far away, and it was difficult for ordinary people to distinguish what it was. However, Li Zixuan had seen it from a distance on the Black Tortoise Gate's watchtower when he used the immortal lamp to wipe out the 7 cultivators of true virtue. Therefore, he was able to recognize it at a glance. Zhao Song responded and ran out. Not long after, he came back. He bowed and said, Your Majesty, that is Li Xianan and his wife. They are touring the city on the immortal lamp. They are still some distance away from the imperial city, and it seems like they are about to turn around. Hearing this, Changle came to a realization. She looked at the fairy lamp in the distance and said with a mesmerized expression, So this is the fairy lamp. Brother Xiao Xian actually brought Sister Yushi up with him. They are really loving. Li'er's expression was a little ugly. He snorted and said, At least this kid knows his place. Get the guards at the city gates to keep an eye on him. If he dares to approach the imperial palace, shoot him down. Shoot him down? Everyone present was stunned. They were all thunderstruck by Li'er's words. Zhao Song wiped his sweat and said respectfully, Yes, Your Majesty. However, Li Xianan shouldn't be so reckless. Li'er glanced at the immortal lamp in the sky and said unhappily, That better be the case. This was Li Zixuan. If it were someone else, he would have ordered the imperial guards to shoot down the immortal lamp. After Li'er said that, he pulled Empress Zhongsun, who was holding back her laughter, and walked to the back of the palace. He said to the concubines and children, Let's go to Li Jing Hall for the Mid-Autumn Festival. Everyone bowed and agreed. After Li'er walked away, Li Tai looked at the immortal lamp and said indignantly, Xiao Xian, this bastard, really forgets about friendship when he sees a girl. He told us that the immortal lamp is unstable, has a limited capacity, and can't control the direction. Now it seems like he was lying. This won't do, I'll settle the score with this kid tomorrow. Li Ku, who was following behind Li'er, looked back at the immortal lamp in the sky as he walked. He thought to himself, Is this engineering? Li Zixuan's engineering is so amazing. No wonder Qingke is so obsessed with engineering. Tunghua Square, Sun Residence. Sun Zifan, who was eating biscuits and admiring the moon in the courtyard, also saw the immortal lamp in the sky. Moreover, he was closer to the immortal lamp than Li Tai, so he could see the outline of the immortal lamp very clearly. When he found out that Li Zixuan and Han Yushi were still standing on it, his reaction was exactly the same as Li Tai's. Damn. Sir, you're too mean. That day, you told me that the immortal lamp is unstable. Why are you sitting on it today? I think this thing is quite stable. Damn. I've been cheated. I've been cheated. Putting aside whether the immortal lamp was stable or not, the two people on it were so romantic that they couldn't control themselves. Husband, this is the imperial city. Han Yushi snuggled in Li Zixuan's arms and pointed to the imperial city in the north as she asked. Li Zixuan draped his outer robe over Han Yushi's body. Just now, in order to bring Han Yushi to see the imperial palace, He deliberately raised the immortal lamp quite a bit because he couldn't ride the immortal lamp to the sky above the imperial palace. If he did, Li'er would definitely mess with him. After all, no emperor could tolerate others spying on his territory. This was also the main reason why the residential buildings next to the imperial palace couldn't be built too high. In this way, the night was already cool, and they still stayed in the sky so high up in the sky, it seemed a little cold. After putting on the clothes, Li Zishuan smiled and said, "Yes, this is the imperial city. Isn't it spectacular?" Han Yushi replied softly, "Yes. I've never seen the imperial city from this angle. It's really magnificent. But husband, if we look like this, we won't attract the city defense soldiers later, right?" Li Zishuan chuckled and said, "Hee hee. That's hard to say, so let's run now." Ah? Han Yushi was stunned and speechless. She thought that since Li Zishuan dared to do this, he must have a card up his sleeve. "Haha. Let's go. Lan is probably waiting anxiously. We should go back." Li Zishuan laughed and used 10 dragon subduing slaps to the back. The immortal lamp began to change direction and flew toward Yongla Lane. Chapter 577. After sending Han Yushi down, Li Zishuan took Lan Xiao He, and Xiao Shi for a walk in the sky for a while before returning home to worship the moon, eat pancakes, and celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival with his family. It wasn't that he didn't think of letting his parents experience the celestial lamp in the sky, but Li Jingma and Mrs. Li firmly disagreed. It was said that they would feel dizzy if they looked down from above. Therefore, Li Zishuan didn't force them. He went home to celebrate the Mid-Autumn Festival, but his legend was left outside. The appearance of the celestial lamp tonight ignited the enthusiasm of the people in the city. Everywhere Li Zishuan and Han Yushi passed by, many people would scream or chase after them. Until now, there were still many people in front of the Li Zishuan's residence. They were waiting for Li Zishuan to come out with the celestial lamp again. But this time, they were destined to be disappointed because the person they were waiting for was having dinner with his family. After dinner, he didn't have time to go out and had to go back to his room to hug his wife and sleep. The next day, after a whole night of brewing and accumulating, the enthusiasm of the people of Chang'an City finally erupted. Every street, alley, tea-house, tavern, and every corner, as long as there were people could hear the discussion about the celestial lamp. On the street, 2 big men got up early and prepared to go to work. "Hey, Lu Biaozi, did you see the big sky lantern in Lord Li's house last night?" "Of course I saw it. And it said that it's not called a sky lantern, but a celestial lamp. Lord Li used this thing to fly up last time when he wiped out the 7 cultivators of virtue." "Wow! How do you know so much about it?" "Hey, I heard it from the servant next door from Assistant Minister Li's house. Tisk tsk. This Lord Li is really amazing. I never said that there's something that can make people fly, but Lord Li really did it. It's really the work of a celestial. Haha. Lord Li is the lucky star that God gave to our Tang Empire. Hateful that some people dared to doubt Lord Li's bragging the day before yesterday. Now no one dares to doubt it, right? Hey, if that's the case, then Lord Li's engineering project seems to be really impressive." "It's amazing, but what does it have to do with you, Pockmark Xiang? What do you mean it has nothing to do with me? I plan to let my brat go to Yanwang College next month to try. If he can get in, won't he be able to soar into the sky like Lord Li in the future?" "Ah, I'm dying of laughter. How can someone as silly as your steamed bun get into Yanwang College? Why can't I? My little bun has already been enlightened. I'll buy him an arithmetic book and let him study for a month. There's an 80% chance that he'll pass." Inside the classroom of the Hongwen School. Although it was the start of the field break, many students who lived in Chang'an still volunteered to stay in the school for supplementary lessons. This phenomenon was not only present in the Hongwen School, but also in the Imperial College, Chongwon School, and other places. In a certain classroom, the students took advantage of the fact that the teacher hadn't arrived yet to discuss the celestial lamp that carried people into the sky last night. Did you all see Li Xian'an riding the lantern and flying in the air last night? Of course I saw it. It was so exciting. I didn't expect Sir Li to really do what he said. With the power of a mortal, he flew in the sky. This kind of thing can only be seen in cultivation novels. I didn't expect to see it with my own eyes last night. It's so amazing. Yeah. Celestial flying on the night of the full moon. I was still wondering what this news meant. I didn't expect Li Xian'an to give us such a big surprise. It's so unbelievable. Sigh. That's right. Did many students from our Hongwen school go to Li Xian'an's house the day before yesterday? They said that Li Xian'an was exaggerating and deceiving the people. Gongsun Fei, were you one of them? Ah? No. Definitely not. I was at home the day before yesterday. Yes, at home. Cui Yunhan went. Everyone knows that. Furthermore, he's still in the Supreme Court now. 3. What I want to know is, did you really not go? Or did anyone else go? I really didn't go. Li Xian'an is knowledgeable and upright. Why would I do such a wicked thing and embarrass our Hongwen school? Damn. That bunch of people really disgraced our Hongwen Institute. Now, even the students of the directorate are laughing at us. Sigh. I didn't expect Cui Yunhan to be such a person. Imperial College. The students' discussions could be heard everywhere. They were even more enthusiastic than the students from the Hongwen school. This was because Li Zixuan was once a professor at the Imperial College. Because of this relationship, all the students felt proud of what happened yesterday. Ha. Li Sai is so amazing. He must have slapped the faces of those students from the Hongwen school until they're swollen. Although Li Zixuan had resigned from his position as the Imperial College's secretary, many students from the Imperial College were still used to calling him Siyi. Perhaps this was also a form of nostalgia. Yes. Let's see who dares to jump out in the future. Whoever is not convinced, Li Sai will slap their faces. Ha. But Li Sai's sky lantern is really amazing. It can actually carry 2 people. Amazing. And good job, Li Sai. Previously, so many people suspected that Li Sai was advocating engineering, but I never doubted it. Because the person who said those words was Li Sai, I believed that he could do it. Indeed, he didn't disappoint me last night. Do you guys know that Yanwang College's entrance exam is next month? At this moment, it was unknown who said these words. Then, the classroom instantly quieted down. The originally excited expressions on everyone's faces froze. Gradually, some people's eyes began to flicker, but they didn't say anything. Clang. Coincidentally, at this moment, the bell for class rang. The students cleared their complicated thoughts, sat upright, and prepared for class. However, things were far from over. After school, at Chitsu Culture. Hey, Situ Cheng, why are you here? A young man in a blue shirt said in surprise as he pointed at another person. Tai Ning. I'm here to buy a dictionary. Yes, I'm here to buy a dictionary for my little sister. Hey. Speaking of which, why are you here? Huh? I'm here to buy a dictionary too. Why are you buying a dictionary? Don't tell me you're buying one for yourself. Besides, you don't have any siblings at home. This. The other student was speechless. He stuttered and couldn't come up with anything. Seeing this, the young man named Tai Ning's expression changed slightly. He leaned over to his companion's ear and whispered, "Are you here to buy mathematics textbooks?" Situ Cheng's eyes widened. He was so shocked that he couldn't speak. After a while, he said, "Are you here to buy mathematics textbooks too? I didn't hear you say you're going to Yanwang College?" Hey, you didn't say it either? If this kind of thing gets out, won't we have more competitors? What if we can't get in? I didn't expect you to be as cunning as me. Bullsh *t. I'm afraid that if I say it, my dad will beat me up if he finds out. That can't be? Engineering is so popular now. Do you think your dad won't agree? That's hard to say. Sigh. But why are there so many people buying books here today? How would I know? Damn. Look, isn't that Qianyufa? Damn, that kid is here too. Chapter 578. Li Zixuan's act of using the fairy lamp to carry a person into the sky could be considered as another wave of advertising for Yanhuang College and engineering. Furthermore, the effect of the advertising was several times better than the last time. The most direct manifestation of this was that the first volume of the new mathematics textbook sold out like crazy in Chitsu culture. 100 books were sold out in an instant, 200 books were sold out in an instant, and 500 books were sold out in an instant. In order to alleviate the pressure of Chitsu culture's traffic, Li Zixuan decisively decided to distribute the tens of thousands of new mathematics textbooks to the major booksellers in Chang'an City at a price of 15% below the market price. In any case, he had never thought of using these textbooks to make money. It was fine as long as he didn't make a loss. Compared to making money, spreading the new mathematics textbook was obviously more important. In addition to the booming sales of mathematics textbooks, the number of applicants for Yanhuang College's entrance exam next month had also increased sharply. According to Ma Zhou's statistics, by noon today, the number of students who had signed up had increased from 100 yesterday to 800. Although there were millions of residents in Chang'an City, how high could the percentage of people who were educated be expected to be, given the educational conditions of this era? Not even 1%. This was also one of the reasons why scholars in ancient times were always given preferential treatment. Today's Tang Daily's headlines were written by Ma Zhou himself. Ma Zhou did a comprehensive report on the fairy lamp carrying a person into the sky last night and enthusiastically praised the wonders of engineering. It was believed that with the Wang family's sales of today's newspaper to the various counties of Tang Dynasty, Li Zixuan's name would be known all over the world. Yanhuang College and engineering would also be planted in the hearts of the people. With time, this flame would eventually become a prairie fire that would burn the entire Tang Dynasty. In the afternoon, Li Zixuan stayed at home to write teaching materials. Regarding the future plans of the Yanhuang Academy, he more or less had an idea. First of all, he had divided the entire academy into a middle school department and a university department, with each department having 3 years of study. If one were to look at it from the perspective of the modern education system, this arrangement of schooling was extremely unreasonable. In modern times, it would take at least 16 years to go from primary school to university. However, this was the ancient times, and young people usually had to start a family at the age of 14 or 15. If one were to blindly apply the modern education system, there would be very few people who could complete 16 years of schooling. Besides, Li Zixuan didn't plan to transfer all the things that were taught in modern education to Yanhuang College. For example, he didn't plan to include Chinese, English, ideological and moral character, art, music, politics, history, biology. If these were taught in ancient times, there would definitely be a big problem, and so on, which were more literary subjects. He didn't plan to include them in the curriculum of Yanhuang College in the future. In this way, the courses that the students of Yanhuang College had to learn would be less than half of what the modern students had to learn. Under a reasonable teaching arrangement, there was still hope to complete the popularization of the basic knowledge of mathematics, physics, and chemistry in the first 3 years. In the second 3 years, it would complete the cultivation of the students who were interested in further study in the fields of engineering, construction, precision machinery, sound, light, heat, and so on, which would open the door to a new world for them. As for whether they wanted to continue to study in depth in the future, they would have to rely on their own effort. Li Zixuan only wanted to be a guide, not a knowledge repeater. This was because no one knew what kind of strange ideas the ancient people would have after they had the basic scientific knowledge of modern people. Perhaps even Li Zixuan, the guide, would be shocked. "Young master, someone from the palace came. The master wants you to go out and greet them." Li Zixuan, who was writing the second volume of mathematics teaching materials, was suddenly interrupted by Xiao Shi's voice. "Okay. I'll go now." Li Zixuan raised his head and looked at Xiao Shi, who was blushing, then got up and went out of the room. But in his heart he thought, "Ever since I took her for a walk in the sky last night, the way she looks at me seems to have become weird. She's also easily shy. Could it be?" Thinking of this, Li Zixuan stroked his chin in a smug manner, looking very pleased with himself. When he came to the front yard, he found out that Li Zixuan had sent someone to summon him. Li Zixuan quickly changed his clothes and went to the palace with the servant. After entering the palace so many times, Li Zixuan was not as nervous as before. However, he could not help but wonder if Old Li was looking for trouble with him because of what happened last night. If that was the case, then he was really petty. Last night, he only took a few glances at the palace from afar. When he came to the Sweet Dew Palace, Li Er was sitting at the top reading a book. Li Zixuan bowed, but Li Er pretended not to see it. It was as if there were 10,000 beauties in the book that attracted his eyes, making him unwilling to look at Li Zixuan. Seeing this situation, Li Zixuan was even more certain that Li Er called him over because of what happened last night. He wanted to show off his power in front of him. He secretly curled his lips, but did not show it on his face. He started to play the role of an obedient child. He stood below and did not say a word. "Oh, you're here." After about a quarter of an hour, Li Er seemed to have just noticed Li Zixuan's arrival. He put down his book and said lightly. Li Zixuan scolded Old Li for being pretentious in his heart. "However," he said, "your humble servant greets your majesty. I wonder what your majesty has summoned this humble servant here for." Every word and action of this fellow was methodical. He was like an old fox who had been in the imperial court for decades. No one could find fault with him. Li Er's mouth twitched slightly. He did not answer but asked, "What have you been busy with recently? As the Crown Prince Zhan Shi, I haven't seen you do anything in the East Palace. If it wasn't for me protecting you, you would have been impeached and sent to prison." Li Zixuan's face was full of black lines. When others wanted to find fault with you, how could they find fault with you? However, after being promoted for so long, he only knew that the Crown Prince Zhan Shi's rank was very high. He was a primary third rank. However, he had no idea what the Crown Prince Zhan Shi was doing. "Why did you ask him to go to the East Palace?" Cough cough. "Your Majesty, this humble servant has been busy with the construction of the academy, the hiring of teachers, and the compilation of teaching materials. I really have no time to work in the East Palace. This humble servant is suspected of dereliction of duty. Your Majesty, please punish me. Why don't this humble servant resign from the position of Crown Prince Zhan Shi and appoint another worthy person?" After thinking for a moment, Li Zixuan took a step back in order to advance. He pretended to be in a bad mood and blamed himself. Li Er glared at him and said angrily, "Bastard! Do you think you can resign from the official position that I gave you? It's understandable that you are busy with the academy. After all, you have put a lot of effort into it. However, after this matter is over, you have to take care of your duties in the East Palace. Do you hear me?" Chapter 579. The Crown Prince Zhan Shi was mainly in charge of the Eastern Palace's internal affairs and cultural education. When Li Zixuan was first appointed to this position, Li Er had not expected him to be able to fulfill his duties. This was because Li Chengqian's education was being handled by the crown prince's right concubine-born son, Kong Ingdao, and his left concubine-born son, Yu Jining. Li Zishuan's title as Crown Prince Zhanshi was more in name than reality. Li Er mainly wanted him to assist Li Chengqian in the future. At this time, Li Er still had high hopes for his son Li Chengqian. This subject thanks your majesty for your grace. Li Zishuan was happy. This test had indeed tested Li Er's attitude. It seemed like Li Er did not want to remove him from his position, but logically speaking, Li Zishuan had no intention of resigning. Although he wasn't a fan of official positions, he needed to have an official position to protect himself in this cannibalistic feudal society. The higher the rank, the better. This third-rank crown prince Zhanshi was just right. Li Er looked at Li Zishuan, who wanted to be proud but did not dare to be too proud. He was both angry and amused. He pondered for a while and said, "The Supreme Court had already found out some information from the scholar who led the attack on your house." When Li Zishuan heard this, he immediately perked up. However, Li Er suddenly stopped talking. This made him very angry. He cursed oldly in his heart for not having little Chirpy. After waiting for a long while, Li Er continued. "That student is from Qinghe's Chui family's Zhengzhou branch's second branch. His name is Chui Yunhan. His grandfather is the East County Duke's younger brother. According to him, because he saw you wantonly advocating engineering studies, he felt that you were insulting the sage's studies. He felt indignant and wanted to gather a group of classmates to denounce you." Qinghe's Chui family? When Li Zishuan heard Chui Yunhan's identity, he was shocked in his heart. Combined with the news of the aristocratic family gathering that Leng Yu Yao brought the day before, he finally had a rough idea of what happened. The aristocratic family had already made a move on him. But after hearing Chui Yunhan's confession, Li Zishuan could not help but frown. He stepped forward and cupped his hands. "Your Majesty, please forgive me for speaking bluntly. The truth is definitely not what Chui Yunhan said. All of my actions after leaving the mountain have harmed the aristocratic families and benefited the common people. Those aristocratic families all see me as a thorn in their side. If you say that Chui Yunhan's actions are only to protect the position of the Saint Academy, I will never believe it." Li Er said in annoyance, "Of course I know that kid is lying. Do I need you to teach me?" However, as Chui Junchuo was the prefectural duke, the people of the Supreme Court could not punish his grandnephew without any evidence. However, the Supreme Court didn't come out empty-handed. They also found some other things. Li Zishuan's expression changed slightly, but he couldn't rush him. He could only stand there anxiously and wait for him to continue. The incident this time was less than a month apart from the time when Jiang Tsuehua led a group of women to surround your house. Previously, I suspected that there should be some connection between the two cases. Thus, I let the Supreme Court officials try the two cases together. As expected, Jiang Tsuehua testified that Chui Yunhan's figure and voice were very similar to the person who instigated her last time. Thus, Chui Yunhan has been detained by the Supreme Court and will be handed over to the Ministry of Justice to be convicted. After Li Er finished speaking, there was a trace of complacency in his expression. Li Zishuan felt that he should play the background music of Detective Conan for Old Li. However, he felt that the previous case had nothing to do with this case, because the day before yesterday, Leng Yuyao brought news that during the gathering of the 5 aristocratic families, the one who went to the Chui family was Chui Xuanji. Your Majesty is wise and observant. I admire you, but I wonder how your Majesty intends to deal with it? Li Zishuan thought to himself. No matter if the previous incident was done by Chui Yunhan or not, this kid will definitely not be able to escape. I will kill him first. Li Er stared into Li Zishuan's eyes and asked, "How do you want me to deal with him?" A qualified and virtuous official would definitely say, "Your Majesty can decide at this moment." However, Li Zishuan was never a qualified and virtuous official. He said with a serious face, "Your Majesty, to be honest, ever since I decided to establish Yanhuang College and promote engineering, I have been running around everywhere for the college. Even so, the progress of the college is not satisfactory. The main reason is that in the process of building the college, there are always some people with bad intentions who want to harm me. In order to protect myself and my family, I am really tired of dealing with them. Therefore, if Your Majesty feels that there is still a need for Yanhuang College to exist, or if Your Majesty feels that engineering is still useful to my Tang Empire, I beg Your Majesty to punish the chicken to warn the monkey, so that those demons and monsters will not affect me from spreading engineering." After saying so much, Li Zishuan wanted to use the name of engineering to make Cui Yunhan look bad in front of Li Er. With the fairy lamp and gunpowder, these two peerless artifacts, Li Zishuan felt that the bargaining chip on the side of engineering was enough. Furthermore, Li Er's relationship with the Shandong nobles was not good. This choice was not controversial for Li Er. Of course, Li Er would not choose to stand on the side of the nobles. Otherwise, he would not have personally ordered the imperial army to capture Cui Yunhan. The reason why he did that was because he placed great importance on engineering. At this moment, after hearing Li Zishuan's words, he raised his eyebrows and said, "You want me to kill Cui Yunhan? Tisk. You really dare to think about it? Let's not talk about Cui Yunhan being from the Cui clan of Qinghe. Just based on the crimes he committed, according to my Tang Empire law, he does not deserve to die. Do you want me to kill him just because he targeted you? If I really do that, how can I convince the masses?" Li Zishuan felt helpless. He thought for a while and said, "I was too reckless. However, Your Majesty, last time, the elder of 7 cultivators sect, Snake King, came down the mountain to kill me to avenge his disciple. According to my investigation, Snake King had been in seclusion in Snake Spirit Mountain for many years and rarely came down the mountain. A few months ago, I killed Flying Snake at Baimang Mountain's Bloodwind stronghold. There were very few people who knew about this matter. Snake King must have found out from some channels that I killed his disciple and came down the mountain to ambush me. I suspect that this matter is related to the nobles, or rather, the Cui clan. Your Majesty, please make a decision for me." Hearing this, a cold light flashed in Li Er's eyes. He stood with his hands behind his back and paced back and forth in the hall. After a while, he said, "Your suspicion is reasonable, but there is no proof. I will not let Cui Yunhan off easily. I will also send someone to warn the Cui clan. This matter ends here. If they still dare to do anything, I will definitely punish them. You can go back first. In the end, now is not the time to touch the Cui clan." Li Er sighed in his heart. Chapter 580. Feiji, do you have any brothers who are good at gathering information? After returning home from the palace, Li Zishuan called Pang Feiji into the house and asked. Pang Feiji was confused and replied, "Yes, I do. I have 2 men who are especially good at gathering information. Do you have any orders for me, Lord Zhu?" Li Zishuan nodded in satisfaction and said, "Very good. Send them to investigate all the dirty things the Cui family has done in recent years. The more the better. It's best if you can find evidence." Li Er had some misgivings about the aristocratic families and was unwilling to make a move against the Cui family. However, Li Zishuan wasn't willing to let them off just like that. Even if he couldn't get rid of this towering tree, he could at least make its roots fester a bit. Li Zishuan had never shown any mercy to those who had harmed him before, just like the 7 cultivators of true virtue sect. Pang Feiji was stunned and asked subconsciously, "Which Cui family is it, Lord Zhu?" "The Cui family from Qinghe." Boom! Pang Feiji felt his brain explode. The Cui family was a top aristocratic family that had lasted for thousands of years. In people's hearts, their status was even higher than that of the Li family. Now, Li Zishuan wanted him to investigate the Chui family. How could he not be shocked? After being stunned for a moment, Pang Feiji muttered, "Lord Zhu, did I hear wrongly? You want to investigate the Chui family from Qinghe?" Li Zishuan nodded and said, "That's right. Is there a problem?" Seeing Pang Feiji's unusually shocked expression, Li Zishuan went forward and patted his shoulder. He continued, "Feiji, you have to understand who has the final say in the world now. It's the emperor. The aristocratic families are just arrows at the end of their flight. Don't be afraid of them anymore." Pang Feiji swallowed a few mouthfuls of saliva and said, "I understand. Don't worry, Lord Zhu, I will find a way to get this done." "Okay. Go." Li Zishuan didn't believe that any of these rich and powerful families had a clean bottom. As long as Pang Feiji investigated seriously, he would definitely be able to find some dirty deeds done by the Chui family's disciples. East Duke's Mansion. Uncle. Oh no. Yunhan has been sent to Cheongzhou. In the afternoon, Chui Yunhan's father, Chui Simo, hurried to the backyard of the East County Duke's mansion. When he saw Chui Junchuo, who was enjoying the cool air under the corridor, he shouted anxiously. The Tang Dynasty established Chang, and as the capital. The development of the north was relatively good, while the development of the south was relatively poor. At this time, the main places of exile for prisoners were Hainan and Guangxi in the south. These places were rich in resources, inconvenient in transportation, and unsuitable for human habitation. The prisoners' lives were used to do dangerous work to speed up the local development. Chui Junchuo was shocked. He stood up shakily and said in disbelief, "How is that possible? The Supreme Judiciary just arrested Yun Han the day before yesterday. Even if they have evidence, they have to hand it over to the Ministry of Justice to convict him. How can it be so fast?" Chui Simo said with a sad face, "It's true, uncle. I asked a few friends from the Supreme Judiciary to take care of Yun Han. According to them, the Supreme Judiciary held a joint trial yesterday for Yun Han and Jiang Tsuehua, who instigated the women to cause trouble in Li Zishuan's house. Jiang Tsuehua, that be *tch, slandered my son Yun Han and the mastermind behind the scenes who bribed her previously. Their voices and figures are exactly the same. Therefore, the Supreme Judiciary officially arrested Yun Han yesterday and prepared to hand him over to the Ministry of Justice to convict him. However, just now I received news from the Supreme Judiciary that the Emperor has decreed that Yun Han will be sent to Cheongzhou and will not be able to enter the imperial court as an official for the rest of his life. Uncle, you have to save Yun Han. He has been wronged. The previous incident had nothing to do with him." When Chui Junchuo heard this, he was both shocked and stunned at the same time. He never thought that the crime of Chui Xuanji bribing Jiang Tsuehua to wreak havoc in the Li residence would ultimately fall onto Chui Yunhan. He closed his eyes and seriously thought about it. If he didn't think about it, he wouldn't know. But when he thought about it, he was shocked. He compared Chui Xuanji and Chui Yunhan's voices and figures in his memory and realized that they were 80% similar. No wonder Jiang Tsuehua would identify Chui Yunhan as the mastermind. Now that things had come to this, it was already out of Chui Junchuo's control. Now that there were witnesses and evidence, it was as difficult as ascending to the heavens to reverse the case for Chui Yunhan unless he told the imperial court that the mastermind behind the chaos in the Li residence was Chui Xuanji. However, was it worth it? That way, although it would reduce Chui Yunhan's crime, it would also cause another descendant of the Chui family to be implicated. Furthermore, it would be the most outstanding youngster of the third generation. Chui Junchuo would never allow such a situation to happen. Chui CMO did not know about the previous incident. Otherwise, it would be hard to say if he would betray Chui Xuanji in order to save his son. For the Chui family, he could only, a trace of determination flashed across Chui Junchuo's eyes. He looked at Chui CMO and said in a deep voice, I had already arranged a meeting with 2 assistant ministers of the Ministry of Justice tomorrow to ask them to make an exception. However, I did not expect the Emperor to place such importance on this case and convict Yunhan in such a short time. Now that the Emperor has issued the imperial edict and the evidence is irrefutable, no matter how hard I try, it will be in vain. So, CMO, you had better make plans early and arrange for some people to go to Cheongzhou to take care of Yunhan. Chui CMO was stunned on the spot as if he was struck by lightning. After a while, he said in a trembling voice, No, Uncle. Yunhan is also your nephew. She couldn't ruin his future because of such a small matter. Please help him. Don't you know Minister Li? Ask him to plead for leniency for Yunhan. Patriarch, the imperial edict is here. The eunuch who delivers the imperial edict is waiting outside. At this moment, a servant ran in a panic and reported with a bow. Chui Junchuo's expression changed abruptly. Then, he said to Chui CMO, Take care of yourself. The Chui family is no longer the same as before. If you don't wake up now, sooner or later, you will follow in Yunhan's footsteps. After saying that, he snorted and left in a huff. When Chui CMO heard that, he knew that this matter had really reached the point of no return. When he thought that his only son was going to be exiled to a barren land thousands of miles away, even though he was a man in his 40s, he could not help but feel sad and his eyes turned red. Yunhan, my son, I have let you down. Uncle, you are so cruel. The person Chui CMO was complaining about in his heart had already arrived at the front yard. When he saw the eunuch who came to deliver the imperial edict, his pupils suddenly shrank. His already stooped back bent even lower. If one looked carefully, one could see that his body was still trembling slightly. Chapter 581. Steward Zhao, why have you come personally? East County Duke's Mansion. The person who came to deliver the imperial edict was Zhao Song. Although this person did not have any rank, he was the person closest to the center of power of the Tang Empire. No one dared to ignore him. Furthermore, Chui Junchuo had just heard the news of Chui Yunhan being exiled to Cheongzhou, and Zhao Song, the head eunuch, came with the imperial edict. Even a fool would know that the Chui family was in big trouble. Hee, I'm here to see the grand courtyard of the East County Duke's mansion. I wonder if the East County Duke has been well recently? Zhao Song's face was full of smiles, but his smile did not make people happy. Perhaps this was the so-called, there is a knife hidden in a smile. When Chui Junchuo heard Zhao Song's words, his expression froze completely. After a long silence he said, Thank you for your concern, Steward Zhao. I'm well. As soon as he finished speaking, Zhao Song sighed and said, But His Majesty has not been well recently. There are always some people who don't want to live a peaceful life and insist on doing shameful things in the dark. These people think that they are doing it secretly and no one will find out. But they don't know that if they don't want anyone to know, they shouldn't do it in the first place. His Majesty is watching. After saying that, Zhao Song stared at Chui Junchuo meaningfully without blinking. The atmosphere in the room suddenly froze. The panic in Chui Junchuo's eyes disappeared in a flash. Then, he stepped forward and clasped his hands. This kind of person is really hateful. His Majesty is diligent and loves the people. He has a lot of things to deal with every day, but he still has to worry about this kind of person. I am greatly indebted to His Majesty, but I can't share His Majesty's burdens and find out those evil people in the dark. I am ashamed to face His Majesty. As he spoke, Chui Junchuo's tears flowed down. Looking at him, anyone would think that he was a rare loyal minister. Zhao Song's expression did not change, as if he did not hear Chui Junchuo's words at all. Chui Junchuo expressed his feelings for a long time, but he did not receive any response from Zhao Song. If he knew that a clown was a creature, he would definitely feel that he was a clown now. Cough cough. The atmosphere was awkward for a while, and Cui Junchuo finally couldn't help but get to the point. I wonder why Steward Zhao is here today? Zhao Song's expression turned solemn. He stepped forward and said, His Majesty ordered me to come. His Majesty wants me to say a few words to you. Cui Junchuo hurriedly said, Then this old man will order people to set up the incense table to welcome the imperial edict. Zhao Song said, There's no need. I'm just here to pass on a few verbal instructions from His Majesty. I don't have an imperial edict with me. East Commandery Duke, just listen to me. Cui Junchuo's heart was beating very fast. He quickly cupped his hands and said, Chief, please speak. This old man is all ears. Zhao Song smiled and said, I've just finished what His Majesty wanted to say to the prefectural duke. I have to return to the palace now. Take care. After saying that, he didn't care whether Cui Junchuo reacted or not and directly left. Are you done? That's it? He just said that if you don't want others to know, don't do it in the first place. Could it be that His Majesty already knows about the Snake Spirit Mountain? Cui Junchuo stared at Zhao Song's back as he left and muttered. His face had never been so pale, and he seemed to have aged a lot. Cui Yunhan has been exiled to Cheongzhou? In the evening, at the Li residence, Li Zixuan widened his eyes and looked at Brother Ji in front of him as he asked in shock. He still had some basic knowledge of history. He knew that the Cheongzhou of this era was completely different from the Cheongzhou of his previous life. With the current level of transportation, it would be good if Cui Yunhan could reach Cheongzhou alive. Even if he was still alive, the rest of his life would be wasted. Logically speaking, being exiled to that place was no different from being beheaded. Pang Feiji nodded excitedly and said, Lord Zhu, this is absolutely true. Jiang Tsuehua has also been exiled to Cheongzhou. With these two as examples, I'll see who dares to cause trouble in the residence in the future. Not bad, not bad. Li Zixuan stood up with satisfaction and paced around the room. He didn't expect Li Er to be so ruthless and not give the Cui family any face. It seemed that what he said in front of Li Er in the afternoon had taken effect. Looks like old Li still cares a lot about his work. This way, I can save a lot of trouble in the future. Li Zixuan thought proudly in his heart. Unlike the other emperors in the future, Li Er had a strong personality and was very opinionated. Once he made up his mind to protect someone, as long as that person didn't look for trouble, they would usually be safe. Lord Zhu, then should we continue investigating the Cui family? Pang Feiji asked tentatively. After following Li Zixuan for so long, Chicken Bro understood Li Zixuan very well. He guessed that when Li Zixuan asked him to investigate the Cui family, it was mainly because of the results given by Li Er. Li Zixuan might not be satisfied, but looking at Li Zixuan now, it was obvious that he was satisfied with the results given by Li Er. That was why he asked this question. Li Zixuan muttered, Let's investigate. Let's not talk about other things first. I'm also very curious if the Cui family has done any dirty things in recent years. Although Cui Yunhan was crippled, Li Zixuan wasn't completely relieved. After all, the Cui family was a millennium-old family. Who knew if the other party would play any tricks again? He had to prepare the black material first so that he could be prepared when he needed to use it in the future. Yes, Lord Zhu. Pang Feiji scratched his head. Although he didn't understand what Li Zixuan was thinking, he still obeyed the order and agreed. Hey, did you hear? Cui Yunhan has been exiled to Cheongzhou. In front of the Hongwen Library, a group of students who had just finished school were walking in groups of 3 to 5. One of the students suddenly said, How is that possible? Cui Yunhan had only been in the Supreme Court for less than 3 days. How could he be convicted so quickly? Yeah. Dongfang Rua, where did you get this unreliable news? It's true. My father is the head of the Supreme Court. How can the news I got be fake? I heard that Her Majesty personally issued an imperial edict to exile Cui Yunhan to Cheongzhou. He can't be an official for the rest of his life. And Jiang Tsuehua, who started the trouble at Li Xiannan's house, was also exiled to Cheongzhou. Hiss. Her Majesty is. Looks like I can't say bad things about Gongshui in the future. Her Majesty is obviously supporting Li Xiannan. TSK. Luckily, I didn't cause trouble that day. Otherwise, wouldn't I have to live in fear every day? The punishment that Li Er gave Cui Yunhan could not be said to be light. To a scholar, their greatest wish was to obtain scholarly honors and enter the imperial court. And now, with Cui Yunhan as an example, all of them could not help but feel fear in their hearts. From this aspect, the goal of punishing the chicken to warn the monkey had been completely achieved. Chapter 582. How was it? What was Cui Junchuo's reaction after hearing those words? In the Ganlu Palace, after dealing with the last memorial, Li Er raised his head and asked Zhao Song. Zhao Song bowed and said, Your Majesty, the East County Duke said, His Majesty is diligent and loves the people, but he still has to work hard for such a villain. He is deeply indebted to the Emperor, but he can't share the Emperor's worries and find out the demons and monsters in the dark. He is ashamed to face the Emperor. Humph. Old man. Li Er snorted angrily. Zhao Song glanced at Li Er cautiously and didn't dare to answer. After a while, Li Er asked again, Is there anything unusual about his expression? Zhao Song pursed his lips and said, There's nothing too obvious. Li Er smiled and said, Oh? Then there's something unusual? I'm not very sure, so I don't dare to jump to conclusions. Li Er stood up and pointed at Zhao Song. Zhao Song, Zhao Song. After so many years, you're still so cautious. Don't worry and say it boldly. I'll make the final decision in my heart. Only then did Zhao Song tell the truth. Your Majesty, when I said, if you don't want others to know about it, don't do it in the first place, I clearly saw Duke Dong's eyelids twitch twice. Also, with all due respect, with my many years of experience, there was panic and uneasiness in the East County Duke's eyes, but it was fleeting. Li Er's face sank and he frowned. Ha! This old man really has something up his sleeve. At this moment, Li Er remembered that during the day, Li Zishuan said that the reason why the 7 cultivators' sect's Snake King came down the mountain to avenge his disciple was probably because the aristocratic family deliberately released the news to kill with a borrowed knife. He asked Zhao Song to go to Cui Junchuo's residence to test it out. Now, looking at the situation, the Cui family probably played some dishonorable role in it. The reason why Li Er came to this conclusion was mainly because he believed in the observation skills of a master. Although Cui Junchuo was an old fox, Zhao Song's eyesight was also good. Send someone to keep an eye on him. If he doesn't behave, then I can only. The next day. East Market of Chang'an City, Huji Grain Store. Shopkeeper Shun, last month, our grain store still had 1,500 strings of coins left. Among them, the Yun family in Yongning Square had 200 strings of coins, the Chow family's restaurant had 370 strings of coins, the Su family in Anqing Square had 215 strings of coins, the Zhu family in Chonghua Square had 300 strings of coins, the Hu family's restaurant had 280 strings of coins, and the Miao family in Changshu Square had 135 strings of coins. Here, I've written these accounts for you. You can have someone check them later. Meng Wenhao picked up an account book, walked to the counter in front of the grain store, and handed it to an old man in a scholarly robe. The old man took the account book, nodded, and said, Hey, little brother Meng, this old man can rest assured that you're the one who did the accounting. But are you leaving now? Do you want to tell young mistress? Meng Wenhao hurriedly shook his head and said, No, no need. I've already told young master and young mistress earlier. Thank you for taking care of me for the past month. Wen Hao is very grateful. The old man waved his hand and said, Ha ha! Little brother Meng, you're too polite. It's your own ability that's great. This old man didn't help you with anything. Although he said that, from the expression on the old man's face, he still enjoyed Meng Wenhao's compliment. Shopkeeper Shin, you're too modest. Since the work here has been handed over, then Wenhao will take his leave. Meng Wenhao bowed, then put away the package and prepared to go out. Meng Wenhao, stop right there. At this moment, a delicate voice came from outside the house. Then, a girl in a light pink dress, slightly plump, and with a passable appearance, walked in. Then, she looked at Meng Wenhao with burning eyes and said, Meng Wenhao, are you in such a hurry to leave? Do you not want to see me that much? Meng Wenhao's footsteps stopped, and the expression on his face was extremely awkward. He murmured, Young mistress Hu, you're here? Call me Qingwan. The girl snorted and said with dissatisfaction, Meng Wenhao, why are you in such a hurry to leave? Could it be that someone here made you unhappy? Or are you not satisfied with your current salary? Hearing what she said, the shopkeepers and workers in the grain store all kept quiet out of fear. Then, they looked at Meng Wenhao anxiously, afraid that this young man would say something he shouldn't. Meng Wenhao waved his hands and said, No, no. I'm very happy here. Shopkeeper Shun and the others take good care of me, and Squire who gives me a very high salary, there's nothing I'm dissatisfied with. After he said that, the shopkeepers and workers all breathed a sigh of relief. Hu Qingwan frowned and said, Since you're happy here and satisfied with your salary, then why do you still want to leave? After saying that, the girl put her hands on her small waist, she put her hands on her waist and took a step forward, looking at Meng Wenhao with burning eyes, with an aggressive posture. Meng Wenhao timidly took 2 steps back and said, Young mistress Hu, I mean Qingwan, I'm very grateful to you and Squire Hu for giving me such a high salary, but it's already August. I came here to be an accountant just to help reduce my mother's burden. Although I made a lot of money, I missed a lot of things because of it. I, Meng Wenhao, am a disciple of Mr. Li, and I'm studying engineering. Yanwang College started construction more than a month ago, and the students from the School of Mathematics all went to Yunshan to help, but I couldn't go. Now that school is about to start, I have to go back to Yunshan to help. So, I can only leave. Hu Qingwan pouted her small mouth, holding the belt of her skirt with her hand, and hesitantly said, Then, after you leave the college, you don't have me in your heart? Cough, cough, cough. Hearing that, old man Shin's face turned red and he coughed violently. Then, he waved at the workers in the grain store, who were gossiping and scolded, What are you all standing here for? Come with me to move the grain. Let's go, let's go. The workers suddenly understood, and under Old Man Shin's lead, they all left the grain store. Before Old Man Shin left, he even considerately closed the door. Seeing that, Hu Qingwan also knew that she had misspoken, and her face quickly turned red. However, although she was shy, she still raised her head and looked directly into Meng Wenhao's eyes. Meng Wenhao was sweating profusely. This was the first time someone had confessed to him, and he didn't feel any better. His face was even redder than Hu Wanqing's. After hemming and hawing for a long time, Meng Wenhao opened his mouth and said, Qingwan, I'm very grateful for the care you and Minister who have given me during this period of time, but I don't intend to consider a romantic relationship right now. Your feelings, Hu Qingwan didn't wait for Meng Wenhao to finish and interrupted him. It's okay. If you don't consider it now, I can wait. Meng Wenhao rubbed his eyebrows, and his face was full of speechlessness. For more than a month, he was indeed very happy to be able to use what he learned to earn money, but this girl in front of him was his nightmare for the past month, and it made him very distressed. Chapter 583. Brother! Meng Wenhao left. Help me persuade him. Xinghua Square, Hu family. Hu Qingwan went straight to the backyard after returning from the grain store in the East Market. She found her brother, Hu Yuanbao, and said angrily, looking at her, her confession just now must have failed. Oh, Meng Wenhao? Little sister, who is Meng Wenhao? Has he formed his core? A plump and fair man was lying on a bamboo bed reading the Tang Dynasty daily. From afar, he looked like a pile of fat meat on the bed. When he heard Hu Qingwan's complaint, he casually replied, "That's right. Core. Core formation? What core?" Hu Qingwan, who was angry, couldn't help but be stunned when she heard these inexplicable words and asked in confusion. Hu Yuanbao felt that he had misspoken and coughed dryly. Ahem. Nothing. I'm saying that Han Li is about to break through to the core formation stage. He hadn't read A Legend of a Mortal's Journey to Immortality for a few days, so he planned to start reading it today. Just as he was reading it with relish, Hu Qingwan angrily came to find him. Therefore, before his mind could break away from the novel, he subconsciously replied to her. Hu Yuanbao. There was always a price to pay for being willful, and Hu Yuanbao thoroughly experienced it at this moment. After figuring out what core formation was, Hu Qingwan yelled angrily, which resounded throughout the Hu family's courtyard. The birds on the branches flapped their wings and fled in fright. Hu Yuanbao, I'm talking business with you. Can you not just stay at home and read novels all day long? Can you? Hu Yuanbao was so scared that his cheeks were trembling. He hurriedly said, Little sister, that's Big Brother's fault. You have something to say. Combined with Hu Qingwan's description of him just now, if he was in the modern world, he would definitely be a fat otaku. Hu Qingwan snorted angrily. Meng Wenhao is gone. Help me keep him. Hu Yuanbao scratched his head in distress and asked weakly, Ahem? Little sister, I forgot who Meng Wenhao is. You didn't mention it just now. You. Hu Qingwan was so angry that her chest heaved up and down a few times. Meng Wenhao is the new accountant of our family's grain store. Say you. Daddy asked you to help take care of the family business, but you didn't listen. Do you know how long it's been since you went out? You don't even know who your own accountant is. Hu Yuanbao licked his lips and walked over to grab Hu Qingwan's arm. Haha. Don't we still have you, little sister? You and Dad are enough for those businesses. Bullshit. I'm going to get married in a few years' time. Won't the family business that Father earned still have to be passed to you? If you don't worry about it now, I'll see what you'll do in a few years. Hu Qingwan broke free from Hu Yuanbao's fat hands and cursed angrily with her hands on her hips. Hu Yuanbao shrunk his neck and said gloomily, Sigh. Annoying. Let's talk about these things later. Little sister, you just said that Meng Wenhao is our accountant. Since the accountant left, we can just find another one. In Chang'an City, there are at least 800 people who know how to do accounts. Hu Qingwan stomped her feet angrily and said, No, I like Meng Wenhao. You have to help me find a way to keep him. Ah? Even though Hu Yuanbao was used to his sister's outspoken words, he couldn't help but be shocked when he heard this sentence. He was stunned for a while before he said, That, little sister, didn't you say that you would wait a few years before getting married? If you have someone you like, wouldn't I have to help Dad manage the store a few years in advance? Little sister, do me a favor and give me a few more years. Ah. Hu Yuanbao, I'm going to kill you. Changle? Chengqian? Why are you here? On this afternoon, Li Zixuan had just returned from the workshop when he saw the two siblings, Li Chengqian and Li Lizzie, coming over. Changle was talking to Han Yushi, but Li Chengqian awkwardly didn't have anything to talk about. His eyes kept looking outside. When he saw Li Zixuan return, Li Chengqian's eyes lit up, and he hurriedly called out, Little Xian, you're finally back. Husband. Brother Little Xian. Han Yushi and Changle looked over and hurriedly stood up to greet him. Li Zishuan nodded in agreement. He walked into the front hall, and everyone sat down again. Li Zishuan asked again, Chengqian, Changel, why are you here today? Li Chengqian opened his mouth to answer, but Changel beat him to it and said, I'm here to chat with Sister Yushi. I haven't seen her for a long time, so I wanted to come over and take a look. It's quite boring to stay in the palace. Haha. Looks like you're embarrassed to say it. Then I'll help you say it. At this time, Li Chengqian laughed loudly and interrupted. Xiao Xian, Changel wants to sit in your celestial lamp, so I brought her here. I didn't see you here, so I wanted to sit for a while before returning to the palace. I didn't expect you to come back. Changel's cheeks heated up and she said angrily, Brother Crown Prince, you're talking nonsense. Didn't you want to sit too? Otherwise, why would you be so kind to bring Changel over? Li Zishuan smiled and waved his hand. Haha. It's okay, since you want to sit, then go ahead. It's not like it's a rare item. But didn't I already give the blueprint of the fairy lamp to His Majesty earlier? Calculating the time, the craftsmen who will be supervising can make 1 or 2 fairy lamps by themselves. Li Chengqian shook his head and said, They can make it, but how can the fairy lamp they make be as stable as yours, little Xian? Your fairy lamp has been used for several days without any accidents, so I came over with Changel. Qinke originally said that she wanted to come over, but Yan Xiaoning called her to Yunshan. Li Zishuan suddenly understood and nodded. Okay. Chengqian, Changel, follow me to the west courtyard. The fairy lamp is over there. The siblings nodded happily. After Han Yushi saw that Li Zishuan had returned to entertain the 2 second-generation emperors, she went to do her own things and didn't follow him. Hey, little Xian, don't untie this rope. When they arrived at the west courtyard, Li Zishuan was about to untie the long rope binding the fairy lamp when Li Chengqian hurriedly stopped him. Why? If I don't untie this thing, how will the fairy lamp fly away later? Li Zishuan was puzzled. Li Chengqian explained, Just fly above your house, there's no need to fly out. Also, don't fly around on the fairy lamp like on the night of the Mid-Autumn Festival. As far as I know, Father won't like it. The general idea was, don't do that, Father won't like it. Li Zishuan was speechless. Chapter 584. Alright. Then both of you can come up together. Li Zishuan already knew that Li Er didn't like fairy lamps flying everywhere. Otherwise, Li Er wouldn't have given him a hard time at the beginning. While cursing Li Er's stinginess in his heart, Li Zishuan checked the fairy lamp and said to Li Chengqian and Li Lizzie, Xiao Xian, aren't you coming up? Li Chengqian was slightly startled. He looked at the unfamiliar fairy lamp and asked weakly. Although he had seen this thing before, he didn't know how to operate it. If some unknown malfunction occurred in the sky, wouldn't he and Changel be dead? Changel also looked at Li Zishuan with some worry, but she didn't question him. Li Zishuan asked curiously, Of course I'll go up. If I don't go up, how can this fairy fly into the sky? Li Chengqian opened his mouth wide and said in disbelief, Then, why are you asking us to go up together? This thing can only hold 2 people at most, right? Li Zishuan was speechless. Who told you that this fairy lamp can only hold 3 people? There were 4 people on it last night. It's okay, come up together. After saying that, he took the lead and walked up, waving at the siblings. Li Chengqian was skeptical. After hesitating for a moment, he shook his head and said, No. It's better to do it one by one. This way, even if the fairy lamp malfunctions, you can still save Xiao Xian. Changel, you go up first. Changel nodded and said, Okay. Then the little girl walked happily to the fairy lamp. Li Zishuan said helplessly, Okay. Then let's do it one by one. However, he muttered in his heart, the richer and more powerful people are indeed afraid of death. After a series of operations, the celestial lamp slowly rose into the sky. Because there was a rope between the bamboo basket and the ground, the celestial lamp could only rise up to the height of a 4- or 5-story building. Moreover, the flying range was limited to the western courtyard. Facing the afternoon breeze, Li Zixuan's exhausted body and mind were greatly relaxed at this moment as he looked at the 108 streets of Chang and in picturesque disorder. If it weren't for Changle and Li Chengxian beside him, he would definitely roar a few times to relax. The main thing was that there were too many things to do recently. Li Zixuan had never felt so tired, mentally and physically. Wow! Chang'an City looks so beautiful from the sky. It's so beautiful! After the fairy lamp stabilized, Changle walked to the edge of the bamboo basket and held it. She couldn't help but exclaim as she looked at the scenery below. The sun's reflection on her pink palace dress made her look like a fairy princess who had just come out of the palace. She was beautiful and beautiful. Haha, that's right. In this world, I'm afraid there's no city more beautiful than Chang'an. When Li Zixuan heard this, he sighed faintly and said, "Those who were born in this era were very lucky." Those who were born in this era and in Chang'an were extremely lucky. They sat in the world's #1 city and enjoyed the protection of the most powerful empire in the world. Wherever they went, they could hold their heads high and not be bullied. But now, he, a person with a modern soul, had inexplicably entered this time and space. Everything he did now would speed up the Tang Empire's path to invincibility. Although it was a little tiring, it was all worth it. After the academy was built, he would be much more relaxed. Brother Xiaoxian, have you been to many places? Changle turned around and asked crisply. Li Zixuan shook his head and said, "No, I don't like to travel. But I've heard my master talk about many interesting places." Changle nodded and looked at the bulging ball-shaped canopy above her head. Suddenly, she asked, "Brother Xiaoxian, if we let this celestial lamp fly all the way up, will we fly to the moon? Then, we'll be able to see Fairy Chang'e." Li Zixuan was amused by her childish words and couldn't help but laugh. "How is that possible? The moon is at least a few 100,000 miles away from us. How can we fly to the moon with this little celestial lamp? Also, we won't be able to breathe on the moon. We'll suffocate to death." Changle opened her mouth in shock and said in disbelief, "Ah? That's so far. And according to what Brother Xiaoxian said, how does Fairy Chang'e live on the moon? Don't deities need to breathe?" "Haha. There are no deities in this world. Chang'e is just an ancient legend. There's nothing on the moon either. It's just a lonely rock without any life. Brother Xiaoxian, you know so much. No wonder Father is always praising you." Li Zixuan was stunned. "Is that so? His Majesty praises me?" Logically speaking, it was good enough that Li Er didn't insult him. Why would he praise him? If the person who said that wasn't Changle, he would definitely slap her. Although Father is strict on the surface, he knows who is virtuous and who is mediocre. It's just that he won't say it in front of you. Brother Xiaoxian, don't be fooled by Father's appearance." Changle giggled and winked playfully. She was extremely adorable. Li Zixuan couldn't help but smile and say, "Haha. If His Majesty knew that Changle told me all this, he would definitely be sad." Changle was slightly embarrassed. She just smiled and stared blankly at the scenery under the bamboo basket. However, she didn't continue the conversation. After a while, Li Zixuan suddenly asked, "Changle, aren't you afraid to look down from such a high place? In ancient times, there were no airplanes or tall buildings with more than 10 or 20 floors. Most people wouldn't be able to adapt to such a high place for the first time." However, Changle was completely unaffected when she came up. It was really rare. Changle squinted her eyes and smiled. "I'm not afraid. Because I know that even if I fall from here, Brother Xiaoxian will definitely be able to save me." Her smiling face and confident expression made her look like a little fairy. She had a huge charm that made people lose themselves in her. After a while, Li Zixuan shook his head and forcibly broke free from his obsession. He secretly thought that this little loli had a lot of charm. Then, he touched his nose and said resentfully, "Ha ha! Changle, you really think highly of me." Changle smiled and turned around without saying anything. However, her eyes flashed with unconcealable joy. Chapter 585. The next day, after Li Zixuan finished his breakfast, he arrived at the Cloud Mountain early in the morning. However, he unexpectedly saw an unexpected person. Wenhao? When did you come? Shouldn't you be at Huji Grain Store? Li Zixuan couldn't help but ask when he saw Meng Wenhao, who had disappeared for a long time, in Yan Xiaoning's temporary office. The last time he came to Cloud Mountain, Li Zixuan had invited a group of students from the School of Mathematics for a meal. He had heard a few students mention Meng Wenhao. They said that he was working as a bookkeeper in a grain shop to earn money to support his family. That was why he didn't come to Cloud Mountain with them. Li Zixuan understood that at that time, in his previous life, he had also worked during the holidays, so he didn't blame Meng Wenhao for this. "Sir, you're here. I just came the day before yesterday. I'm a little late, please don't blame me." Meng Wenhao saw Li Zixuan coming in and quickly stood up to greet him excitedly. However, Yan Xiaoning interrupted in annoyance. "Look at your students. All of them are more active than you. A few days ago, someone was sitting on a fairy lamp and walking around Chang'an City. How carefree!" Li Zixuan was speechless. "I was just proving to everyone that I wasn't bragging, okay? It's not for my personal enjoyment? To a certain extent, I was also doing it for the future development of Yanhuang College." Yan Xiaoning curled his lips. "Fine, fine, fine. You're the only one with such twisted logic. But speaking of which, your student is really good. Not only is he good at accounting, but he's also very charming." Li Zixuan was confused and asked, "What do you mean?" Meng Wenhao's face was red as he quickly said, "Nothing, Commander Yan, please don't say it. This is something to be proud of, what's there to be embarrassed about?" Yan Xiaoning patted Meng Wenhao's shoulder and laughed. Then, he said to Li Zixuan, "Little Xian, you still don't know, right? After you went to Huji Grain Store, not only did you beat their 4 bookkeepers in mathematics, but you also almost kidnapped their eldest daughter when you left. TSK. Li Zixuan was taken aback and asked with great interest, "Oh? There was such a thing? Xiaoning, quickly tell me about it." After saying that, this guy quickly moved a stool over and sat in front of Yan Xiaoning. He looked like he was eager to hear some gossip. He didn't look like a gentleman at all. Meng Wenhao's eyelids twitched as he watched. He was speechless. Yan Xiaoning, on the other hand, was used to Li Zixuan's impulsive personality. He also sat down and began to tell Li Zixuan about Meng Wenhao's romantic affairs. Thus, the 2 men in the room began to gossip while the half-grown young man was sitting awkwardly at the side. After a few minutes, Li Zixuan understood the whole story. He stood up and laughed. "Wenhao, you're really something. You haven't even graduated, and you've already learned how to flirt. Haha. Not bad, not bad." Meng Wenhao was embarrassed. Although he didn't know what flirting meant, he could roughly guess. He muttered, "Sir, I just want to use what I've learned to earn some pocket money. I don't intend to provoke anyone." Li Zixuan waved his hand and said, "Haha. You don't have to explain to me. I still believe in your character. But why didn't you accept the eldest daughter of the Hu family?" This. Meng Wenhao scratched his head in embarrassment. He didn't know how to answer. Li Zixuan looked at Yan Xiaoning and asked, "Is it because of her appearance? Xiaoning, what does the eldest daughter of the Hu family look like?" Yan Xiaoning held back his laughter and said, "Her facial features are all right. It's just that her figure is slightly plump. There's nothing bad about it." "Oh, Li Zixuan replied with a meaningful "oh." Meng Wenhao quickly said, "Sir, it's not because of her appearance. It's just that I'm still young and haven't considered marriage." Yan Xiaoning curled his lips and said, "Tisk, pretentious. If it wasn't because of her appearance, then it would be weird." "Oh right." Li Zixuan suddenly thought of something and asked, "Xiaoning, don't you like girls with plump figures?" He remembered that many books in his previous life wrote that the Tangs viewed plump people as beautiful. Logically speaking, since Miss Hu's facial features weren't bad and her figure was slightly plump, such a girl should be more popular nowadays. But looking at them now, it was obviously not the case. Yan Xiaoning said in disdain, "Go. Who said that I liked girls with plump figures? I don't see you like girls like that. Why do we have to like them? Wenhao, do you like girls like that?" Meng Wenhao hesitated for a moment but still shook his head. Li Zixuan sweated and thought to himself, "Did I remember wrongly again?" He didn't remember wrongly, he was just misled. In his previous life, the saying that the Tangs viewed plump women as beautiful had been around for a long time and was widely spread. Some experts, after some research, asserted that the Tangs did view plump women as beautiful. They also pointed out several reasons why the Tangs viewed plump women as beautiful. The Tang's economy was prosperous, and people had the means to eat well and wear warm clothes to maintain healthy and plump bodies. The Tang's culture was open and inclusive, and they were generous and fat. The Tang's Xianbei bloodline in the Tang's royal family made them innately fond of women with strong bodies. In reality, this saying was wrong, or at least not accurate. The reason why people thought that the Tangs viewed plump women as beautiful was mainly based on Yang Guifei's body shape and the images of women in the Tang's palace paintings and paintings. In fact, as long as one looked carefully at the famous Tang's Yan Liben's walking carriage painting and Zhou Fang's flower hairpin painting, it was not difficult to find that the palace maids and ladies in the paintings were not plump at all. The 9 palace maids in the walking carriage painting clustered around Li Shimin as they walked slowly. Some were carrying the carriage, some were holding umbrellas, and some were holding fans. They all seemed to have some strength and were definitely not sickly beauties who could not stand a gust of wind. However, looking at their figures, they were all quite slender. The women in the flower hairpin painting were probably of noble status and slightly older. Their figures were slightly plump, but their standing posture was graceful, as light as the spring breeze brushing the willows. There was no doubt that their figures could be described with the word slender. Regarding Yang Guifei, there were records in the literature that she was fat and afraid of heat. For example, the legacy of Kaiyuan Tianbao said that she was fat and hot until summer. However, Yang Guifei's fat body was definitely not as plump as people said today. At most, he had some muscles, which was what the outside biography of Yang Taizhen called just a little bit of muscle. A person who was good at dancing, the rainbow-colored feather dance was her representative work, would definitely do a lot of physical exercises, so it was normal to have a bit of muscle. Yang Guifei's fear of heat was actually not because she was fat, but because of her physique. According to the legacy of Kaiyuan Tianbao, Yang Guifei often went to the back garden in the early hours of the morning to suck on the flower dew to moisten her throat. In order to moisten her lungs, Yang Guifei would have a piece of cool jade fish in her mouth every day in the summer. Moreover, there were no historical records that showed that Yang Guifei was favored by Emperor Ming of the Tang Dynasty because she was fat or plump. According to the old and new Tang books about Yang Guifei was favored mainly because of her good aptitude. Specifically, it included good at singing and dancing, good at music, wise and alert, welcoming and understanding, the new Tang book. That was, she had literary skills, was smart, and understood others. In addition, poet Saint Du Fu described in the poem Beauty's Walk, her posture is deep and true, her skin is delicate and even. That was gorgeous, dignified, temperament and delicate skin. In reality, Emperor Ming of the Tang Dynasty did not appreciate Yang Guifei's muscles. According to the biography of Yang Taizhen, Emperor Ming of the Tang Dynasty was reading the biography of Emperor Qing of Han in the Baihua courtyard. After Yang Guifei saw it, she asked him what he was reading. Emperor Ming of the Tang Dynasty smiled and said, "Don't ask. You will feel bad if you know." Yang Guifei snatched the book and saw that it said, Emperor Qing of Han obtained the flying swallow, and his body was light and unable to withstand the wind. Fearing that he was floating, the emperor made a crystal plate and ordered the palace servants to dance and dance. At this time, Emperor Ming of the Tang Dynasty joked with her and said, "You can withstand the wind more than her." Yang Guifei was not convinced and confidently expressed that her rainbow-colored feather dance surpassed Zhao Fian's. When Li Bai was enshrined in Hanlin, he was ordered to write 3 songs of purity and peace, to praise Yang Guifei's beauty and the life in the palace at that time. The second one was dedicated to Yang Guifei's beauty. A stick of red dew and fragrance, the clouds and rain Wu Shan heartbroken. Who in the Han Palace can be like her? Poor flying swallow is wearing new makeup. In the poem, Yang Guifei was compared to a peony and Zhao Fian. If Yang Guifei was really a fat person, she could form a sharp contrast with Zhao Fian. Then, this comparison would be a mockery and disobedient. It was very likely that Yang Guifei herself also admired Zhao Fian and was willing for others to compare her to Zhao Fian. It was said that Yang Guifei had the nickname of Fat Maid, which was very likely a curse from people who were jealous and hated her, such as concubine Mei. From this, it could be seen that people at that time did not view fat as beauty. The most interesting were 2 lines of Bai Juyi's poem, "A fat horse walks fast, a prostitute sings and dances," 3 poems with feelings. Fat horses are beautiful. The 6 horses of Zhaoling are all fat and strong, but thin and tall prostitutes are beautiful. Being fat is an unforgivable flaw for prostitute. The famous poet Du Mu met a fat prostitute in Shaanxi, a bar girl, who urged him to drink. He immediately wrote a poem that was extremely sarcastic and ugly. Take a look. At that time, Pangu had a distant grandson, and he still ordered today to show off his family. A cart of white earth covered with mud and 10 red flags patched up. In the Wagwan temple there were traces of footsteps, and in front of Huaiyue Mountain there were palm marks. There was no need to be melancholy and worry about marriage, waiting to ask Lo Kuan. All kinds of evidence showed that the Tang peoples saying that fat was beautiful lacked evidence. Moreover, this was the first year of Xinguan, and the Tang dynasty had only been established for less than 10 years. Even if the Tang dynasty had a trend of fat being beautiful, it certainly hadn't been completely established yet. At the very least, Empress Zhangsun and Princess Changle were not fat, and were very slim. F***ck, there's a problem here. Li Zishuan muttered to himself. He suddenly remembered that he had seen Empress Zhangsun, and realized that at this time, people didn't think fat was beautiful. Otherwise, Empress Zhangsun wouldn't be so thin. Chapter 586. Hello, boss. Good. How are you guys? Is there any difficulty in harvesting the food at home? Hi. No difficulty. I asked my wife to ask the 3 uncles to help us harvest the food, so there's no problem. On the other hand, it's us who have taken too much money from you, boss. We feel a little ashamed. Haha. What's there to be ashamed of? This is all earned through your own sweat and hard work. Just take it with a peace of mind. Don't tire yourself out too much. It's not worth it if you get a heat stroke. Hey, don't worry, boss. We're not that delicate. Besides, Commander Yen doesn't let us work in the afternoon. We won't get a heat stroke even if we want to. After teasing Meng Wenhao in the house, Yen Xiaoning brought Li Zishuan to inspect the construction site. Li Zishuan looked at the tall buildings that rose from the ground and casually chatted with some of the workers by the roadside. Although it was called chatting, It wasn't really chatting. There was a lot of evidence that proved that a leader's occasional concern for his subordinates was very useful in improving the overall work efficiency. This couldn't be called showing off, but encouraging. Ever since Li Zishuan had brought the first crane to Yunshan, more and more people had discovered the huge advantage that machines had over humans. In response to Yan Xiaoning's strong request, the workshop had sent more than 20 cranes one after another. This was a sharp weapon that was ahead of the times. In addition to the large number of workers, it directly led to the construction speed of the academy to be greatly improved once again. Now, the situation on Yunshan was really changing day by day. Xiao Xian. A few old masters and I estimated that the main building of Yanhuang College, the bishop, canteen, dormitory, bathhouse, and library, will be completed by the end of this month. Walking on the hard and flat cement road, Yan Xiaoning felt quite emotional. He had never seen such a cement road and such high-rise buildings before, but now he had built them, which filled him with a sense of achievement. Perhaps with this academy, he could be ranked as a top master architect like his father. At this time, the two of them arrived at the back of the college. Yan Xiaoning said to Li Zishuan. Li Zishuan heard it and said in surprise, "So fast?" Yan Xiaoning laughed and said, "Heh? It's not that fast. Little Xian, on your way here, you should be able to see that many of the buildings are about to be completed. In the future, I plan to divide these 10,000 people into 3 groups. One group will do the interior decoration of these buildings, another group will build other buildings, and the other group will follow your previous plan to create scenery for the academy. They will transplant trees and flowers, build fake mountains, dig lakes, and also build that sports field you want to build." Li Zishuan thought for a while and agreed, "Yeah, we'll do as you say. After the main building of the academy is completed, don't be in a hurry to dismiss the craftsmen and commoners. The later construction of the academy has been completed, and I don't lack money now. Also, in addition to the buildings that I have planned earlier, I need you to send a group of people out to help me build some independent buildings behind the academy. I will give you the blueprints later." Yan Xiaoning asked curiously, "What do you want these small buildings for?" Li Zishuan laughed and said, "Xiaoning, didn't you read the newspaper earlier? The academy will assign some professors to their own houses. Although the academy doesn't have any professors now, I have to prepare these houses in advance. You can't go back on your words. The environment here in Yunshan is beautiful, and I believe many people will be willing to live here. Later, I will find a good location here and build a house for myself." Yan Xiaoning was speechless and said, "I think you have too much money and nowhere to spend it. If you build a house here, how many days can you stay in a year?" Li Zishuan didn't think much of it and said, "That's hard to say. Who knows, maybe I will always live here." "Hey, Xiaoning, don't you want to consider building one too? The house I want to build is different from the one we are living in now. You will definitely be jealous when you see it." Yan Xiaoning was actually a little tempted. He thought for a while and said, "Cough cough. Little Xian, look at how hard I have worked for the academy these 2 months. Aren't you going to give me a house for free?" Li Zishuan sneered and said, "Che? In your dreams. At most, I will give you a 20% discount based on the cost of the house. The rest will be from me." Yan Xiaoning said angrily, "F***ck. You are too much, aren't you? If you are like this, I will quit. You can go find whoever you want." Hey, don't. Let's talk about it. How about I give you a 40% discount? Not good, 50%? How about 50%? Hee. Then I will go back and pack my luggage." Hey, don't. Consider it my bad luck to have such a bad friend. I will give it to you for free. After some bickering, Yan Xiaoning emerged victorious and obtained a cloud mountain villa that had yet to be built for free. Although Li Zishuan looked angry on the surface, he wasn't angry at all in his heart. Firstly, he didn't really care about this little bit of money. Secondly, Yen Xiaoning had a share in the first batch of Cloud Mountain villas. What he said just now was just a joke. Xiaoning, how do you think the Academy will solve the water problem in the future? Li Zixuan came to Yunshan today not only to inspect the progress of the Academy's construction, but also to solve the Academy's water problem. However, after walking around Yunshan for so long and even walking around the forest behind the Academy, he still did not see a waterfall or a river. This made him a little disappointed, so he asked. Yen Xiaoning was happy that he finally got some benefits from the miser Li Zixuan. When he heard this question, he could not help but be stunned and answered subconsciously, "What's so difficult about that? There are so many wells in Plum Village and the Han family village at the foot of the mountain. Also, there is the Ba River beside Plum Village. Is there a lack of water? We just have to find some people to carry water up every day." Li Zixuan shook his head and said, "This is not a long-term solution. The scale of the Academy will definitely get bigger and bigger, and there will be more and more students. When that time comes, how can the Academy's daily water consumption be met by just carrying water up the mountain?" Yen Xiaoning was helpless and said, "Then what do you think?" Li Zixuan thought for a while and asked, "Xiaoning, do you think we can use a water wheel to carry water up the mountain?" Things like water wheels didn't require a lot of technology. Tubular water wheels had already appeared in the Sui Dynasty. Many protagonists in time travel novels who went to ancient times relied on water wheels to become famous. This was more or less inappropriate. Li Zixuan still had some knowledge of this common knowledge, so he asked directly. Chapter 587. Xiaoxian, are you talking about the water tanker? Yen Xiaoning looked at Li Zixuan on Yunshan Mountain and asked. Li Zixuan nodded, "Yes, it's the water tanker. If this water tanker doesn't work, I can design a new water tanker with more power and a longer transmission distance." He had several water tanker models in his mind, but he wasn't familiar with them. He didn't know if they could be used in Yanwang College. If it weren't for the fact that the power system wasn't easy to solve, he would definitely build his own water tanker. For him, it was easy to build a water tanker, but the difficult part was the problem of the power required for the water tanker. He still lacked the materials for an internal combustion engine, and he didn't have a stable power supply system for an electric motor. Therefore, he could only rely on the water tanker. Although Yen Xiaoning was confident in Li Zixuan's creativity, he still shook his head and said, "I don't think it's possible. Yanwang College is too far away from Ba River, and the terrain is too high. It's impossible to use a water tanker to transport water. Even if it can be transported up, it can't be too much. Even if you can make a water tanker with more power, I think it's still useless and not worth the loss." Li Zixuan rubbed his eyebrows and seemed to be a little distressed. After hesitating for a while, he gritted his teeth and said, "How about this, Xiaoning? Help me find a group of well builders and ask them to find a suitable place on Yunshan Mountain and dig a few wells for me. In the early stage of the college, let's transport water from the foot of the mountain." Yen Xiaoning opened his eyes wide and said, "Are you crazy? Yunshan Mountain is so high, how can you dig a well?" However, Li Zixuan shook his head and disagreed. "Xiaoning, you're wrong. Although Cloud Mountain is relatively high, the trees on the mountain are dense and there's plenty of rain all year round. Some places can still be dug out. When the time comes, you can find an experienced craftsman and you should be able to find a few good spots. There's a saying that it's futile to dig a well on the mountain. Many people think that it's impossible to dig underground water because of the high terrain on the mountain. This is a misconception. In fact, there are places on the mountain where underground water can be found. Underground water didn't only exist on flat land, but also on high mountains. Sometimes there was no water at all in places lower than the horizon. The existence of underground water was related to the structure of rock strata. Some rock strata couldn't store water, while some rocks straight ahead can find water. Besides, there were soil, trees, and flowers on the mountain. These things were the main factors for storing water. If the soil and water were well preserved, it was not impossible to dig up water by just digging 2 or 3 meters. In Li Zixuan's previous life, one of his relatives had contracted a mountain to raise chickens. Because the mountain was high and there was no running water, his relative had hired someone to dig a well on the mountain. In the end, they only dug 5 meters before they found water. Therefore, when it came to digging a well, the terrain was not the deciding factor. Yan Xiaoning, on the other hand, didn't understand these things. He asked skeptically, "Can you really dig a well out of such a high mountain?" Li Zixuan said confidently, "Definitely. Don't worry, Xiaoning. As long as the craftsmen are experienced and can distinguish the water level, they will definitely be able to dig a well in Yunshan. Alright. Tomorrow, I'll arrange for someone to go to Chang and to look for a well builder." In Yunshan, the construction of the college was in full swing. In the Tang Daily, there were waves of publicity about Gong Shui and Yanhuang College. When Gong Shui was first publicized, Ma Zhou had arranged for a group of people to study Li Zixuan's published articles. Many people in the editorial department had a deeper understanding of Gong Shui, so there was no need for Li Zixuan to do the publicity. There were plenty of people in the editorial department who were talented in this field. Therefore, recently, the news section of the newspaper was almost filled with the words Yanhuang College and Gong Shui. Under such fierce publicity, more and more people knew what Gong Shui was, and what kind of college Yanhuang College was being built outside Chang'an City. Gong Shui Yanhuang Academy. In an instant, their momentum was like a rainbow. Of course, in the past, there would be many Confucian defenders who would jump out and criticize Li Zixuan for bragging about Gong Shui in the newspaper. However, since Cui Yunhan left Qiongzhou and Li Zixuan flew to Chang'an City in the middle of autumn, almost all the voices of opposition died down. First, they were unreasonable, and second, they were coward. Moreover, as the Wang family quickly sold the newspapers to other states and counties, Gong Shui and Yanhuang College's reputation began to radiate to other regions. In particular, the story of Li Zixuan flying into the sky on the Mid-Autumn Festival was particularly shocking. The most intuitive manifestation was that according to the data fed back by the branches of Tang Dynasty Daily, the number of students signing up for Yanhuang Academy began to show an exponential explosive growth. As early as 2 days ago, it had already exceeded 2,000 people. If this data were to be announced, it would definitely cause a huge uproar. This was because even the Directorate of Education and the Hongwen School combined didn't have that many students. Of course, there were many students who signed up on impulse after seeing the news. It was very likely that they hadn't fully grasped the subjects of Yanhuang College's entrance exam. Even if they came to take the exam, they wouldn't have any hope of getting in. More students chose to buy a new mathematics textbook and read it at home. If they could understand it and learn it well, then they would sign up. If they didn't understand it, then they wouldn't sign up. This could be seen from the sales of the new mathematics textbook. Up until now, Chitsu Culture's mathematics textbooks had already sold more than 50,000 books. 50,000 versus 2,000. This was a very large disparity. Of course, there were also some mathematics enthusiasts who just wanted to study Li Zixuan's new mathematics textbook. In addition to the increase in students signing up, there were also more and more people who wanted to apply to be Yanhuang College's teachers. First, it was because Li Zixuan's salary was too generous. Second, it was because Gong Shui and Yanhuang College couldn't be more popular now. If they came to teach here, they could gain both fame and fortune. Only fools wouldn't come. First, there were some famous scholars in Chang'an. They were the first to come to Li Zixuan for an interview. These days, Li Zixuan held 10 interviews, but he only hired one person, and it was an old acquaintance. When he was in the Directorate of Education, Assistant Professor Mao, who sat opposite him in the office, followed closely behind Su Hongji and also wanted to change jobs. The rest of the people were either too deeply influenced by Confucianism, or they didn't have any teaching skills at all. They were the type that completely followed the script. Li Zixuan said that he couldn't even listen to such boring lectures, so how could his future students be willing to listen? Therefore, of the 10 teachers who came to apply, only one was successful. The low acceptance rate of Yanhuang College's teachers gradually spread out. Chapter 588. On August 26, the first year of Zhenguan, Yanhuang College's main buildings, including the cafeteria, the library, the dormitory, and the bathhouse, were all completed. The magnificent cement skyscraper stood at the top of Yunshan Mountain, silently showing the world the majesty of Yanhuang College. Those who were observant had already discovered that there was a giant on Yunshan Mountain. On this day, many people saw that Yanhuang College's skyscrapers had been completed. Many people called their friends and came to Yunshan Mountain to watch the fun. Tsk. Li Xianji is really rich. He built so many skyscrapers just like that. And he built it so quickly. He probably hired a lot of people, right? I heard that he hired tens of thousands of people. Our neighbor, Fatty Pan, has been hired, and the pay is not ordinary. Hey, old Nyo, why weren't you invited? Is it because your body is weak, and you weren't chosen by Lord Li? Hee. Could it be that Chui Nyang emptied your body last night? Ahahaha. A certain frivolous man made a frivolous joke, which made the people around him burst into laughter. The young man who was mocked blushed and then said angrily, LV Dezhuang, F** King bullshit. Do you want to fight? Come on, I'm not afraid of you. Hey, don't embarrass yourselves here. This is a place for educated people to study. How can you fight like this? That's right. This is outrageous. Hey, old Meng, look at the road on this mountain. It's completely different from the bluestone road at the foot of the mountain. It's hard and flat. I wonder what material it's made of? Oh, I heard from the Han family village that it's called cement. Cement can be used to make roads when mixed with sand and stone. And look, it's not just the road. Yanhuang College's walls are also covered with cement. They're using cement to replace glutinous rice mortar. An old man with coarse white hair, holding a walking stick and stroking his beard, slowly told the truth. Cement? What's cement? Where can I buy it? Looks like it's pretty useful. The house built with this looks quite sturdy, but I wonder how much more expensive it is than glutinous rice mortar. The coarse-clothed old man shook his head and laughed. Many people want to buy it, but it's not on sale yet. Why is that? Is there anything money can't buy? What's so strange about that? It was said that this cement was invented by Lord Li himself. Of course, he would use it for his own academy first. It's not like Lord Li lacks money. Oh, so that's how it is. Lord Li has really put in a lot of effort for this academy. Tsk. Yanhuang College's skyscraper looked so imposing. Which family's kid would be lucky if he could get in? I heard that there's no tuition fee here, and you can even learn Lord Li's skills. That's right. My child is already preparing for Yanhuang College's entrance exam. If he doesn't pass this year, he'll take the exam next year. Tisk. How can your stupid son get into Yanhuang College? Why is it impossible? For the first time, Yanhuang College's image was more complete in front of the world. The people who came to watch the fun saw this magnificent and mysterious academy. The older people with children of the right age were all thinking of ways to send their children to Yanhuang College. The younger people were thinking about how to persuade their parents so that they could apply for Yanhuang College. Excuse me. Please make way. At this moment, dozens of ox carts suddenly appeared on the mountain road. The person in the lead was Li Tai. When the little fatty saw that so many people came to watch the academy today, he couldn't help but frown and ask the people to disperse. When the crowd heard the shout, they subconsciously opened up a path. However, when they saw the contents of the car, their eyes almost popped out of their sockets. Hiss! This is colored glass? This is top-notch colored glaze. Every piece is so big and beautiful. There are nearly 10 carts of colored glass. Why did Yenhuang College bring so much colored glass? Who knows? Maybe we can use it in one of the houses. Yenhuang College's architecture can't be estimated with common sense. Oh my God, how much is this? In fact, not only were the onlookers dumbfounded, but the people who followed Li Tai to the workshop to transport the colored glass were also dumbfounded. In this era, colored glass was worth as much as gold. When these people saw so much colored glass in the workshop in the morning, they were almost blinded. However, after walking for such a long time, they gradually got used to it. At this time, when they saw that there were people who were as shocked as they were at the beginning, they more or less felt a sense of superiority. Be careful. Come, bring all this colored glass to Guanghua Building first. We'll have to make 2 more trips later. Li Tai commanded the convoy as he spoke in a clear voice. When the onlookers heard that, they almost fell to the ground. So this amount of colored glass wasn't enough? They still had to make 2 more trips. Today, they finally saw what it meant to be a rich person. Even gold was transported by carts. But soon, they also understood why Li Tai brought so much colored glass over. Oh my God, look! They're using colored glass as windows. A sharp-eyed young man suddenly saw 3 craftsmen installing a piece of colored glass on a gap in the wall on the first floor of Yenhuang College's main building. He tilted his head and thought for a while, then suddenly came to his senses and couldn't help but exclaim in horror. Oh my God! Is Lord Li crazy? Even if he's rich, he can't waste it like this. What a waste of natural resources. I was just wondering why there were so many gaps in the walls of Yenhuang College's buildings. Aren't they afraid of the cold wind in winter? I didn't expect them to be used to install windows. This window is enough for a family to eat for decades. Lord Li is really a rich man. Ha. If Lord Li doesn't have money, who else would have money? However, Lord Li earns money openly and honestly, so no one can say anything about it. Hey, you don't say. These houses with colored glass windows are quite beautiful. The inside of the house must be very bright. It's true. Not only are these colored glass windows beautiful, but they also let in light and block the wind. Lord Li really knows how to have fun. Sigh. I really regret not letting my child prepare for Yenhuang College's entrance exam as soon as possible. It's probably too late now. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.